At a very important clan meeting, the head of the family was in a bad mood because of one of the bearers of their great family name. Old Man Chen was very angry with our main character, Alex Walmart. The head called him a non-entity and a disgrace to their family, which is why he drives him out of the house. Alex is scared beyond measure, and it's all because he understands that his fate will turn out very badly without their family. However, Walmart is not of this world. Just 3 days ago, he was in the real world, hosting podcasts about success and teaching people how to become rich. And 2 days ago he died, after which he ended up in this ill-fated world, becoming the 13th youngest son of a great clan. As it turned out, the father of the family was still willing to tolerate his son's helplessness. But his sneeze at a family dinner forced the father to expel him. They banished him to a hut on the edge of the village. He really wanted to get out of there, as it looked more like a prison than a home. A man with a familiar voice knocked on the wide wooden gate and introduced himself. Our Alex was very happy to hear a human voice, which was also familiar to him. In the doorway, he saw a charming silhouette, as if the almighty God himself had descended to him from heaven. But in fact, it was the butler's uncle, who, under a gust of wind, was fighting with the blanket. This sight disappointed the hero. The old butler brought him some food, and told the servants to bring in some furniture as soon as possible. The boy was very grateful that at least this old man remained by his side. But in reality, he just wanted to repay him for the service he had done earlier. Alex wanted to know why the head of their family was baring his teeth at him, and not at anyone else. Immediately after his words, the old man decided to tell the story of Alex's father, because the hatred towards him began with him. Alex's father was the third son of the head. Everyone knew about his talent, and predicted that he would become the next head. But damn love spoiled everything when he married an ignoble girl and large-scale problems began. After the birth of our hero, this couple left the family, and after that there was no news from them. Alex is already imagining what a cruel and bloody drama this could end up being for him. The old man said that the servants would come soon, so he should go and continue working for his masters. For the help he had provided, Alex shouted a heartfelt thank you to the butler. Deep down, the old man hoped that this boy would one day grow up and become a man. By the way, while they are sweeping here, I think this old man is a very important character in this work. After some time, the servants actually came and cleaned up the area. Alex was overjoyed at such help. For such purity, it would have been possible to thank them with money. But the hero decided that a simple thank you would be enough. His entire courtyard simply shines after the servants clean it. The hero really loves cleanliness around him. Suddenly, someone started talking to him in his head, as if something divine had actually penetrated his brain. As it turned out, it was a system. She was talking about some kind of pumping inside the house. The essence of this divine system is that he just needs to sit at home and he will become stronger, without tasks and quests. The system lit up and said that the rewards for today had been issued, and he needed to continue staying at home to receive new rewards. The flash made him fall asleep and wake up under the blinding sun, with something hard lying underneath him. This solid thing turned out to be the teaching of martial arts, the mortal realm, with which one can overcome death and gain eternal life. This fool was even afraid of an ordinary book. Where does he become immortal? Afterwards, he began to read this book with suspicion, and so he became convinced that the incident with the system was not a dream. In short, he explained the essence of the mortal realm, which is the basic level of cultivation. Alex is very weak. It's not for nothing that the system gave him the most basic level of cultivation, since he still has about 7 such teachings behind him. If all he can do is sit at home, then he needs to take up cultivation. Taking the lotus position, he began to draw in the life energy around him. It enveloped him from head to toe. Mr. Alex was very glad that in his past life as a businessman, he had studied the meridians, without which he would not have understood. Thus he cultivated in the lotus position until the very night, when the moon was the most beautiful point in the sky. And then until the very morning, when the sun had already displaced the moon and it was simply impossible to look at the bright luminary. He spent day and night cultivating and was not tired. The practice actually strengthened his body. After hard work, you need to take a little rest and replenish your points. So if he sits at home forever, he will become simply omnipotent. It's already the 3rd day in a row and the system has given him a ghost knife, although it's so dull that it can't even cut an apple. On the 4th day, the divine system gave him the defensive and offensive technique of the snake. Alex has been very tired for the last couple of days, but with such efforts, he will become invincible. However, he needs to get busy reading the general history of their entire clan so as not to screw up at dinner again. This is what self-development and multitasking look like. You sit, read, and become stronger. It's simply a miracle. He had guests at his estate, and a charming female voice filled his space. He recognized her. It was his sister Anya, who brought him gifts and wanted to meet. because he was her 13th brother. Alex was glad to have such a guest, but he didn't understand why she didn't send the gift through the servants. Had she really come to please him with her own eyes? In fact, she had wanted to meet him for a long time, but after his expulsion, she had so much work that she simply didn't have time. Anya observed proper etiquette at the meal and said that she was going to ask her grandfather for mercy when the opportunity arose. And this sloppy guy was smacking his lips and saying with his mouth full that he was doing just fine here, so there was no need to worry. She felt a little ashamed, but she was the only one who saw how Alex alone had humanity and kindness left in the midst of cruelty and bloodshed. When she said goodbye at the gate, she said that she would still ask her grandfather for alms. Mr. Alex really hoped that his naive little sister did not realize that not a single word he said was sincere. While he was thinking about his sister, he received a reminder from the system that another day had passed, and it was equivalent to a whole year of sitting at home. Alex sat and cultivated in the lotus position all day long, as he received a lot of life energy. He did this in order to overcome the kingdom through which he was trying so hard to pass. But nothing was working. Even against the backdrop of darkness, he shone very brightly. All the energy in the area was drawn into his body. Still, nothing worked out for him. After cultivation, he was all disheveled. Even so, he realizes that he is the main character. But for some reason the plot of the work does not allow him to become the strongest in one day. Fortunately, each time he gets closer to those doors that he only needs to step over, and he will enter a new level. Only a couple of days have passed, so he has nothing to despair about. Everything is still ahead and he will succeed. On the 5th day of his stay-at-home life, he received a book of martial techniques related to the mind. It's such a pitiful feeling when you realize that he won't be able to practice even these techniques. The system was generally brazen in giving him useless things, but even so, he learned everything that was given to him. He learned what he learned, but practice remained, and this is difficult. He is alone in the estate and has no one to practice on. It occurred to him to use aura searching to find animals and practice mind techniques. With this technique, Alex will definitely be able to find someone nearby. The aura search technique allows him to locate all living beings within the radius of his aura's interaction. It seems he sensed something and saw a female and male monkey who were mating and were in mating season. This sight did not evoke any good emotions in the hero. He even felt sick from what he saw. A rainbow of vomit poured out of his mouth, and he realized that he shouldn't stick his nose where it didn't belong. Guests arrived at the estate. It was quite early for their visit, and in the morning, instead of breakfast, the stranger offered lunch. The stranger aroused the young master's suspicions, since servants are trained to walk in pairs, and he does not sense the aura of the second one. It was a short guy with a knitted basket containing rice. Everything seemed fine. At first, Alex didn't sense any trickery. Everything seemed plausible. As soon as he took a closer look inside the rice, he saw something unimaginably terrible. Among the small grains of rice lay a small egg of some kind of monster. The hero's vision did not fail him. He was able to recognize in the rice a small egg of a parasite that would enslave anyone if the victim ate it. Apparently, Alex is no longer going to tolerate his upstarts, since he knows that this wanderer wanted to kill him. To find out his true motives, he gathered his strength and directed his hand, charged with life energy, towards the stranger's head. Before reading everything that was going on in this freak's mind, Alex suggested that he confess immediately, or he would find out everything himself. The guy didn't want to tell him anything, justifying himself by saying that the old butler always sent him food. There was no point in interrogating him anymore, so he simply sent his fist of life straight at him. An intangible hand of energy touched the brains of the false servant to force him to confess to everything. As soon as Alex got into the short man's head, his eyes changed color. They became darker than the deep night. This wanderer dropped his basket of rice and can no longer hide his identity. The hero asked him who sent him here. Then the guy replied that he was no one's henchman. He was a representative of evil, and came to take possession of him, since he was very weak. Alex realized that through him, this cultist was going to take over their great clan and family. Such evil minions come from a certain eastern autonomous region where devastation reigns. There are constant fights and wars in that place, so there are few people there, but they are all very powerful. Even if there are many powerful masters, above them all stands the King of Darkness, who is stronger than them all. Outside of the royal house, cults of sinister personality are scattered throughout their continent, and they are very dangerous and difficult to kill. If the representatives of darkness come one by one, then their clan has nothing to fear. But the fact that they have started to appear here makes him wary. To make sure it was safe, he asked him whether he was alone or with someone, and he said that there were no others like him. Later, he began to say that Alex was the successor, and through him he wanted to gain control over his entire family. The boy understands that he urgently needs to report this to the head of the family. But how can he do this, since his father does not want to see him. The hand of mind capture began to weaken. Apparently the representative of darkness decided to resist. At that moment he weakened, and could not contain this demon in the hands of his mind. The guy had already completely transformed into a minion of darkness and went wild. Claws like a wolverine's came out of his hands. They could even cut paper with their own weight. The 13th son tried with all his might to dodge the claws of the dark minion, but it seemed as if each blow was getting closer and closer. Even though he had the snakeskin technique that protected him, he had doubts that its claws would not hurt him. He once needed to call his family and tell them that there was a sectarian in his house, and he needed to be rescued urgently. In fact, it turned out that he could kill him with one blow from the snake's fist. The only problem with defeating the dark minion is that the ancestral home will reveal to Alex that he was hiding his power. If he kills the sectarian, he will be taken back to the house of his ancestors. But if he does not kill him, the accomplice of darkness himself will not spare him. If he is taken to the ancestral home, he will not be able to connect with the system and receive its rewards. Suddenly, servants came to bring him food, and he was incredibly happy about their arrival. The representative of darkness spoke of the glory of the great dark king, whose name is murder. The servants saw that the cultist had entered the young master's estate, so they rushed to his aid. Meanwhile, Alex actively avoids the cultist's high-speed attacks. It was a fortunate decision of fate. The servants would save him and spread the rumor that cultists had infiltrated their kingdom. He continued to launch combination attacks, shouting how great their dark king was. The boys were very scared for their master, and Alex himself even started acting like he was helpless. The prince ran from the villain, screaming for his mother to save him. But the cultist himself said that no one would save him. The servants noticed what a loser their master was. If they didn't have to bring him food, they would have passed by his estate. Alex's acting skills do not fail him, and he runs away from his enemy realistically. The servants managed to catch the villain and stop him from attacking his master, the prince. While Alex was running, he apparently didn't notice how the wall of his estate turned out to be in front of him. He is very strange, thought his subordinates, when he exhaled his spirit. Somehow they even felt ashamed that the prince they worked for was so helpless. The master's condition was no longer so important to them. The sectarian needed to be taken to the leader, and Alex simply needed to be sent a doctor. He was expecting them to leave, but just in case, he decided to test the mind of the dark minion. A long energy arm flew out of the estate and flew towards the servants. He needs to make sure this guy hasn't done anything else bad. To get this information, he will stick this hand right into his brain. In order to extract certain information from his brain, he must touch a certain part of his area. And he did this in order to take both him and his secrets for himself, so that, for example, during torture, he would not tell his family about his abilities. After some time, he prepared for himself a useful elixir for cultivating living energy. As the system stated, this elixir should help him overcome the realm of death, from which he has been unable to escape for a week. News arrived at the main palace of Alex's family about a cult member who had infiltrated and attacked the 13th son. The old man shouted again, and was very unhappy with such news, because the cult of personality of the Dark King could awaken again. And Chief Chen was also unhappy that he had such a strong son, and that he gave birth to such a weakling, Alex. Young Master Chris listened to his elder and replied that fortunately, they still had many talented children. Anya, who always visits her brother to make sure nothing happens to him, arrived at Alex's estate in the morning. She was the only one in his family he was glad to see, since she was the only one who didn't consider him a loser. It makes him feel better to have someone to talk to. Anya understands that Alex is not going to return to the ancestral home, so she goes to him, since a cultist has already come to him, and he needs to be careful. And while he was eating, he let it slip that this Satanist was just a small-time asshole, whom he would have smeared across the wall. The girl felt awkward about this, since she herself knew that he had then smeared himself against the wall from fright. It only dawned on him that he had almost let it slip, and his image as a loser would have gone away. When he spat out all the food from his mouth, his sister began to scold him, because he was eating where he had already lost his manners. Suddenly she remembered why she came here. She needed to convey that the head was organizing a family tournament and inviting everyone. Everyone means everyone, says Anya, pointing out that Alex should be there too. Anyone can join the tournament without restrictions, from servants to the main members of the clan. Alex sensed a catch in this competition, after which he called his sister into the room with him to pass something on. He placed a small box into her hands, but Anya had no idea why he needed it. The brother said that he got these chests with elixirs from his father, which is a very good inheritance. Anna was immensely grateful for these elixirs, and promised to use them wisely. Only after she left did he realize that they needed a tournament of such magnitude to identify the cultists inside the palace. On the 7th day of his stay-at-home life, The system again presented him with a box of elixirs. One day he would overcome the realm of death. At the same time, a competition is taking place at the ancestral home, where Anya shows quite good results. The judge made the final decision that the winner had been determined, and it was Anna. Grandfather was infinitely happy that he had such a talented granddaughter in his family. The beauty was elegantly deadly in battle. Her attacks were precision-honed, for which Chen praised her, and she thanked him. The referee is already about to announce the 14th fight, in which the palace gardener is participating. The first to be introduced was this gardener who had made 2 knives out of his lawn shears. The second fighter was again a representative of the royal family, the young Master Chris. The judge told Mr. Chris to also choose his weapon, but he wouldn't need it. He was going to win with his bare hands. As it turned out, the gardener was an accomplice of darkness, and was going to kill Chris for a reward from the King of Darkness. An incredible thirst for murder awakened within him. When he activated his technique, it became clear that he was a cultist. Old Man Chen also realized that this gardener was hiding the fact that he was a cultist and worked for them in the palace. He stopped the gardener's weapon with one touch and did not even feel any damage. The guy wanted to know where an ordinary gardener got such great fighting abilities from. The minion of darkness could not even imagine that his opponent would be of such great power. The servants rushed to save Master Chris, as the cultist could kill him. Chen's grandson told them not to enter the arena, as the fight was not over yet, and it would be a serious violation. Immediately after his words, Chris knocks the weapon out of the demon's hands, and he is left confused. With one movement of his hand, that attack sent the cultist flying far beyond the battlefield. This immediately deprived him of victory, and also of his life, since sectarians are immediately punished here after being exposed. This guy bares his teeth and growls in anger because he lost a battle for which he could have received a lot of money. Chris then struck a dramatic pose with his cape fluttering in the wind, after which the judge declared him the winner. Sister Anya was worried about her brother, and also mentioned Alex, who was the first to meet the cultist and was all alone. The young master obviously didn't like his younger brother, but he considered it Alex's merit that they learned about the sectarians with his help. After completing the tournament, Chris even got the idea to come and visit him. Meanwhile, in his estate, our hero practices cultivation, but cannot get past the first level. For him, it's like trying to squeeze through the narrowest crack, but he still can't become the key to the lock. At the same time, the system announces the 8th day of staying home and rewards with new equipment. It was a stealth technique. He could blend into nature and remain unnoticed. There was little point in it, since he had no one to hide from at home. Well, he has nothing to do anyway, and this technology will become some kind of entertainment for him. Because of practicing the new technique, Alex fell asleep late, and his sister Anya woke him up early in the morning for some reason. The eldest came to visit him one last time and say goodbye, since she would not be able to see him for a long time. The younger gentleman was alarmed by the fact that she came so early to say goodbye to him. She explained to him that she had overcome a new kingdom, and after that, she could climb one mountain for training. It was all thanks to Alex and his elixir pills that she was able to break through. When she said goodbye, she told him the last important news that his older brother Chris would come to visit him. Then he waved at her and gave her a wide smile from ear to ear, wishing her all was well. However, it is sad because he has even fewer options for what to do. He misses the televisions from his first life. This kind of farewell makes him sad. It's still light outside, and he has nothing to do. It was already dark. A new reward from the divine system appeared. He came into possession of knowledge about a new technique, a thunderfinger, which can collect surrounding energy and turn it into lightning. He had absolutely nothing to do. All that was left was to study new techniques and attacks. From outside, his voices could be heard saying that it was necessary to concentrate the energy in the chakra network and direct it into the finger. On the other side of Alex's family's property was his house, and these strangers looked into its territory. They were looking for the young master's property. There were 2 of them, and they were going to attack him. Luckily for them, getting here was very easy and didn't present any obstacles. They rushed forward, expecting their prey to be as easy as hitting an elephant from 5 meters away. Both of them delicately descended from the tree directly onto the territory of the most influential family on the continent. Alex sensed the presence of these poor fellows, but he couldn't understand who they could be, although he wasn't happy about them all. He understands that he started cultivating in vain, since he will not be able to stop, otherwise there will be bad consequences. He no longer cared who was there or what they were doing. It was better to concentrate on practicing his thunderfinger. On the street, these 2 bandits were going to carefully install an energy grid. The guy was surprised by the fact that the lights were still on in the room. It didn't look like Alex was sleeping. Inside, the bandit heard rapid breathing, but Alex himself stood still, looking like he had broken through to a new level. This fact completely confused the intruder. because everyone around knows that Alex is a loser without powers. The second one turned out to be his brother, and said that his energy grid was ready. The intruder at the window told his partner that Alex was currently breaking through to a new level. The brother was confident in his poisonous daggers, and was already thinking about what Alex would do against them. Then his partner held his hand and told him not to disrupt his cultivation, otherwise he might go crazy and die. And they need Alex alive in order to make him a hostage for the family. The light in the room went out, the eerie breathing disappeared, and it became so quiet. The invaders didn't understand at all how this could have happened. Could it really be that loser Alex broke through the level? The bravest one decided to check what was going on with their prey. He couldn't pass through the new kingdom. The second brother became wary, as Alex's presence disappeared too suddenly, as if no one had been there. The daredevil didn't hesitate and simply kicked the doors inwards, for which the second one scolded him. He was very impudent and told the little brat to kneel before his elders. From the darkness came a short flash of electricity, and a bolt of energy shot through the bandit's throat with lightning speed. The guy was seriously injured, half of his neck was damaged, and it was likely that he could not be saved. Damn it, in this state he can even talk. His partner immediately decides to help him. Alex's voice could be heard from the empty and dark room, although he was completely invisible. It was clear that the bandit was in panic, since his comrade was in mortal danger, and the enemy's abilities were unknown. Alex noted that they were too daring for his guests. Few dared to treat him that way. He came out of his chambers like a ghost. Nothing came from him. No sounds, no heartbeat, and no breathing. The villains could feel anything. For Alex, this was an incredibly rude invasion of his territory, and he would not let them go so easily for this. The uninjured bandit doesn't understand why there's no aura emanating from this loser. The hero wanted to chat with someone, so he decided to tell them about a stealth technique that makes him dissolve like sand and disappear through their fingers. However, he would really like to chat some more, but they need to die, since they will spread information about his power. It was they who set up a spiritual net and made sure that no one would know about their death. No one will know about their deaths, and if they manage to escape, no one will believe that the loser Alex repelled the bandit's attack. Previously, Alex hid his aura with stealth techniques, but now he can fully unleash his abilities. "Behold," Alex said and released his aura. "This is my power that you wanted to see, intruder." The guy realizes that Alex has become a master at a higher level, and is probably already at the highest level of his kingdom. The bandit can think about how strong Alex is already in the afterlife, right with his brother. The snakebite technique didn't give the bandit a chance to survive. The wounds were fatal, and there was no one to save them. Since the hero does not yet know how to restrain his powers, he not only did not restrain them, but he went too far. He himself realized that he had used a lot of unnecessary force, but now we understand how strong he is now. In fact, he is even sadder because there are corpses, blood, and guts in his estate, and he cannot instruct his servants to clean it all up in the morning. He also had no desire to bury these impudent villains himself. The system suddenly seemed to hear his whining and gave a new reward for defeating the enemy. Now all enemies defeated by Alex became controllable living plants. From a small sprout, a large flower began to grow, which grew at a great speed. And so the grow-most man-eating flower grew up. It was twice as tall and bigger than Alex. As soon as the plant saw its victim, it began to suck it into its wide mouth, like paste. There was nothing left of the corpses. They became food for large handheld flowers. It looked too creepy for Alex, but at least they recognized their owner and removed the extra corpses. This sight looks truly creepy, as if you were in a horror movie in a tropical forest with man-eating plants. Memories from this world say that after eating a person, these plants retain the memories of their victims. He touched the top of his pocket pet's head to find out what fate had brought these cultists here. He began to recite the spells of the mind-reading technique out loud, and absorbed the surrounding life energy. Images of those bandits getting ready to return their hostage cultists, who were captured at the tournament, popped into my head. They came here for Alex to ransom their people for him, and to catch the prey they took poisonous smoke. On the map, the bandit shows an estate that is almost never guarded, and where Alex, the loser, lives. And from that moment on, their invasion and attempt on Alex's life began. What is frightening is the fact that they wanted to use toxic smoke, which acts like radiation in our world, and can bury this place for many years. For such valuable information, Alex rewarded the flower with divine pills and sent it to sleep. If the poisonous smoke were to spread throughout his family's holdings, no one would be able to cultivate. He was incredibly lucky, because he broke through to the next level thanks to the danger growing outside. A month has passed since the recent events. The system has rewarded him with countless energy pills and new techniques. The divine system also gifted him with several types of deadly weapons, although this is not as important as the following. During this month, he trained a lot and stayed at home all the time. which gave him an inner vision. At first he saw darkness, then small sparks, then a rather bright light that kept growing and growing. Now the light filled everything around. It was too bright, as if a bomb had exploded in my head. After which, some kind of cloudy spot began to appear in the middle of this illuminated space. This stain is still growing to this day. It has already turned into a speck of sand, and does not stop there. Yesterday's system reward was a new book with training and defense techniques. He suspects that the system knows all his strengths and weaknesses, and therefore selects rewards for him that match his strengths. With new technology, he will be able to defend himself from the villains and cultists who do not allow him to live peacefully and calmly. Meanwhile, in the main palace, Chief Chen was receiving information from his envoy. He ordered him to thank a certain family who had worked hard on an unknown task. The envoy continued to say that about 10 people from their family suffered, which is not good. Damn these cultists, Chen thinks, and curses all these sectarians and the King of Darkness. Chen is going to unite 3 families to deal with the cultists. After training in the mountains, Anya came to visit Alex, whom she hadn't seen for a whole month. He was glad to see her even more than anything else. After all, he had been here for a month completely alone. For him, she brought some delicious brewed tea from the mountains where she trained. Alex told her that he didn't want to drink, but would rather listen to how she spent her training in the mountains. Anya wasn't happy with his answer. The tea might get cold and become tasteless. After those words, she began to pour tea into him by force, so that he would drink it to the last drop. What a pity that the meeting with Anya turned out to be just a dream. Only someone is pouring some kind of liquid on him in reality. He was shocked to wake up after such a good sleep, although the liquid on his cheek was disconcerting. The hero began to remember how he fell asleep yesterday while practicing a new technique. Finally, he became interested in the yellow liquid on his cheek. Who dared to do this to him? Suddenly, a noisy cat appeared behind him, making its characteristic sound from its mouth. Seeing such an interesting pet behind him, he himself became frightened. It turns out that the divine system rewarded him with this animal so that he would not get bored. It was in his best interest to teach him to use the litter box. Otherwise, he would wake him up every day. The picture shows a beautiful white cat on a yellow radiant background. He is terribly cute. After several days of training, the speck of dust turned into a whole patch of land. Even with such dimensions, everything here somehow looks empty. I wonder what awaits him next. Large white paws, similar to those of a cat, appeared above the small island. Alex was a little surprised that external objects could influence internal vision. He pointed his finger at the cat and said that he couldn't bother him just because he was so cute. The cat was unhappy and pointed his finger at the bowl where his food should be. It was then that the owner realized that he had completely forgotten that his new pet needed to be fed. As soon as the hero felt guilty, the cat hit him in the face with its paw. Later, of course, he gave him some healthy food, and the cat happily devoured his delicacies. Alex had a bandage on his cheek after the cat hit him, and he was unhappy that the cat didn't even thank him. Meanwhile, outside in the courtyard, a knock on the gate is heard, and it is still surprising who came to him so early. The owner realized that these were not servants, since he had previously told them to enter without knocking, and if there was no knock, then to leave the food at the gate. If a person came to him, then there is nothing bad. He is always glad to have guests in his estate. The elder brother Chris appeared outside the gate. The young master, as he had promised earlier, he came to the 13th brother. He didn't expect to see him, although Anya had previously said that Chris would come to visit him sooner or later. He was glad to have his guest Alex and offered him some mountain tea. Then he remembered that Anya had told him that young Master Chris would come to him. Chris came to him to tell him that with his help, they found out that there were traitorous cultists in their palace. Alex pretended that he hadn't done anything worthwhile in that situation with the cultist, so there was nothing to thank him for. Chris also called him to leave the estate and come down from the mountain, that is, to leave the palace as well. Alex was very afraid to go down the mountain, since the system would not be able to give him rewards. 3 great families want to unite in the fight against evil, after which the head of the family can forgive Alex and return him to the palace. Also, in the battle with the cultists, Alex can not only prove himself to Chief Chen, but also improve his martial arts. Descending from the mountain is a big problem for the hero, so he won't go down. Chris also planned to take Alex without the knowledge of his elders, so as to avoid unnecessary scandals. But if this was problematic for Alex, he was ready to ask the head for permission. The hero thought through his answer carefully and said that he would earn his elders' forgiveness when the time came. Chris realized that his younger brother was not so useless. After all, he also had his own manhood. Chris had completely underestimated him. His strength of spirit turned out to be too great to act so dishonestly. The young gentleman warned the younger man that months might pass before their next meeting, and that he would have to stand up for himself. Finally, he talked about Chen, and how he holds a grudge against Alex, but doesn't feel any hostility. So Alex shouldn't hold a grudge. So they said goodbye. Chris didn't suspect that in terms of strength, he and Alex were already almost equal, and for this he only needed a couple of months of sitting at home. Alex slowly closed the large gates made of dark wood that had been cut down on the grounds of his estate. He was terribly dissatisfied with this meeting and was glad that it was finally over. Meanwhile, Chris was returning to the family home, and someone was watching him in the bushes nearby. It became clear to the stranger that Chris had come to visit his little brother, and that he was the target of this shadow. The dark silhouette of the stranger became clear and flew out from the tree crown in which he had been hiding. It was the deputy leader of the local evil cult. He was going to catch the brat Alex and use him as a hostage. All this is done to anger Alex's father, since he will be very angry. Because it was the fault of the head of the family that his son was expelled from the family home, and then he was killed by cultists. Once again we were shown this capsule with toxic smoke that counteracts cultivation. Now was the perfect opportunity to sneak into the estate without a head. These high stone walls were the smallest obstacle on the way. Alex's powers are incomparable to him. In comparison to him, this stranger is simply God. This cultist is ideal for such silent messiahs, but he didn't take into account that the little cat had already noticed him. This wanderer, whose name is Jim, doesn't even see the point in hiding, because there isn't even a guard here. The hallmark of his cultist affiliation is the dark purple aura of evil that he casts when casting spells. Small energy ropes leaked into Alex's domain. The owner of these properties did not notice them, and easily fell into a trap that he did not even suspect. It's very unlike Alex, because he can sense the approach of ominous energy. Why didn't he notice the enemy now? The Dark Master tells him that there is no way to escape his bonds, especially for a brat like Alex. What the villain didn't expect was that his energy rope began to disappear, which is strange, since the main character can't master any techniques. A cloud of unknown smoke suddenly appeared. Jim thought that Alex didn't have any techniques, but how could he explain it then? A bead of sweat runs down Jim's face. He is confused, his face filled with horror from ignorance. A white silhouette of an unknown enemy appeared behind him, attacking Jim at the most unexpected moment. The blow was strong enough to leave a deep scar on his face. This unknown enemy turned out to be our domestic cat, who, as it turns out, is quite strong. In honor of such a crushing victory, Alex praised the cat and nicknamed him Death Paws. The next time, the hero decided not to scold the pet for pestering him. He immediately began to research this character, and he realized that he was one of the deputies of the leader of the local cult. He didn't want to give it to his family because they would kill him, and he needed information. So he summoned a second bloodthirsty pet that would eat the cultist and give him his memories. Without any mercy, the man-eating flower swallows Jim at the behest of its master. As soon as the flower ate its victim, Alex began to absorb the remnants of life energy into himself, along with the information that was stored in Jim. In Jim's mind, he discovered that he was connected to the first cultist who attacked him, and most surprisingly, he was able to hide in their family for 3 whole months. The deputy gave his assistant a capsule with poisonous smoke so that he could plant it on Alex, and he would then spread the disease himself. A couple of days later, Jim was indignant that there was no news from his assistant. That's when Alex realized that Jim and the shorty were from the same gang of cultists. With his inner vision, he looked at this island, which was becoming larger, although it also looked empty. He knows that his spiritual strength is growing, but he hopes that this island will somehow change visually. After defeating the cultist, the system rewarded them with new techniques, although no one in their region can use them. In order to use the Zanpakuto technique, he needs to break through a new level. He understands that the minions of evil will not leave him alone, and the enemies will become stronger, so he needs to become stronger. In a dark cave, someone is discussing the incident with Jim several days later, and where he went. The dark silhouettes in the cave wondered where their deputy could have gone, since he couldn't have betrayed them. The savage with the scar sat by the fire with the old man, another deputy. He suggested that they think that Jim had betrayed them. The old man explained to him that he must know what would happen to them and their cult if they committed treason. The man with the scar pointed out to them that they should call their elders for help to solve the problem with the Chen family. The evil's deputy, this girl, says that their authority in front of their elders may be undermined, and they will not be valued because of this. The head of the cult sat on a hill. He says that they need to not waste time and attack Alex's family themselves and destroy them. He knows that Chief Chen wants to use their cult as a training ground for his young masters. All 3 masters of darkness went to look for Jim, and they also wanted to fight with the family of enemies. These masters went in different directions to explore the surroundings of the palace. The old man thought about how he could search for his comrade, since only he himself could contact them. It occurred to him to break some kind of pill that would give a signal to their deputy. All that remains is to break it, and the information should reach Jim. The next morning the sun was shining warmly outside. At his estate, Alex speaks with a servant who comes as soon as the hero thinks about food. Today the food was really tasty, more than usual. Is there really some kind of celebration at my parents' house? In fact, everything was just like that, said the servant. Young Master Chris led an entire army into battle with the villains, and their campaign was crowned with success. The head of the related house was very happy, and held a feast in honor of this. But it was not only this that amazed him, but also the fact that they had won the victory so quickly. In that very cave, a mournful silence reigned. Everyone understood that their comrade Jim would not return, and they were also experiencing an attack by 3 clans. The old master was terribly confused, since he was more than anyone else certain of the death of their deputy Jim. A man with a scar, and after a battle with 2 scars, says that it's a very good thing that he died and didn't betray. This beauty also knows that no battles have been heard from the mountain clan's lands. The head of the local cult said that they shouldn't pay attention to Jim. There were more important problems. The combined attacks of the 3 great clans of the East caused the majority of the losses, including the Stronghold of Darkness and the 4 Elders. The leader ordered them to report to the evil king so that he could force the demonic court to deal with those families, and they would direct their forces to other clans. The next morning, Alex's servant brought food again, and also brought news that demons had destroyed the estates of a neighboring family. Alex was left speechless by the sudden attack and spat out all the food from his mouth. The boy reported to him in detail about all the losses and how the little devils burned the houses of an entire clan. Revenge from the darkness was not long in coming, and they lost a powerful ally. At the Chen family's ancestral home, a messenger was discussing how they could strengthen security on their property. Chen believes that they have no right to make the same mistakes as the neighboring family. The messenger heard everything correctly, and reported that 15 elite masters had already gone out to guard the ancestral home. The old man praised their work, and also asked where young Master Chris was now. The messenger answered that the young master was returning, but he was still far away. But he has several elders of the Yellow Tulip clan with him, so he will be safe. Chen felt calmer, but one question remained. Why haven't they been attacked yet if they were the first among the 3 families to attack the cult? Now it began to dawn on him that the main forces of darkness were very close and would soon attack. Alex also realized that the Kudists would soon attack their family, and then him. Fortunately, the servant said that they had already defeated half of the villains, and the remaining half would not be difficult to catch and kill. There is also a post with elite security near Alex's house, so he has nothing to worry about. Alex, looking at the blue sky, thought that everything would be like this. His life was safe. This picture shows a graceful bird against the background of a blue sky with snow-white clouds. But in this picture, a whole 6 months have already passed, and nothing significant has happened during this time. And after 6 months, his cat still hadn't learned to catch food on his own. The hero laughs at him with particular pleasure, since his pet has again missed the prey. In cat language, the kitten meowed that he had let him go on purpose, and that it had all been his plan. The young gentleman says that in those 6 months, he broke through the 3rd level. It was precisely because he had broken through the 3rd level that his 6th sense had increased in scale to 100 kilometers. A sudden loud knock on the gate and strong gusts of wind made Alex wary. Outside the gates, not far from the estate, someone was causing a noisy and rather nasty fuss. Clouds of dust rose from the air dispersed by this stranger, or several strangers. The force of this air rocked the trees and scattered the birds on their crowns. Some handsome guy was pulling his plump lips towards the face of a beautiful girl and giving her some terribly nasty compliments. Unfortunately, at such times, such disgusting couples like to wander around in the middle of nature. One gives compliments, and the other drowns in embarrassment. From the outside, this looks especially disgusting. Their voices echo throughout the forest, as if this guy is a large glacier, and she is the sun that melted it. Alex is terribly irritated by these two, because they look so slimy. Red hearts of love were scattered throughout the forest by the wind that appears from the air of that scoundrel. Our hero is even more angered by the fact that that guy is his 7th brother of the Yellow Tulip clan, and he knows very well that Alex has an estate here. The 7th son is deliberately engaged in this obscenity at his estate, since no one would allow him to do this at the home of his ancestors. That's why Alex decides to teach the impudent fellow a lesson. So much so that he will forever regret that he did such bad things out of spite. Using his unknown technique, Alex takes control of life energy, manipulating it, takes a branch from a tree and directs it at the couple. A strong blow landed on the impudent man's back. His girlfriend doesn't even suspect that her boyfriend was attacked by an unknown enemy. He began to clench his teeth in horror, as he was most certain that no one could stop them in this forest. The unknown force that hit him with a stick did not stop his hot ardor, and he decided to continue to climb towards the selfless lady. The girl no longer tried to resist him. Our sweet couple almost touched each other's lips. Alex's head is spinning from such impudence. He can't afford to do something like that here. The seventh son can no longer be stopped. The girl is ready to reunite with him into one whole. Yeah, no one would tolerate that. Alex was terribly angry, so his eyes lit up. He filled his fist with life energy, gathering the strength with which he would carry out a minor attack on his relative. Kleski's airstrike hit the seventh air directly on the buttocks. The blow was so powerful that the seventh son screamed so loudly that the entire mountain woke up at such an early hour. The impudent man ran away to the house of his ancestors, calling the unprecedented power a manifestation of the energy of the ghosts of defeated cultists. His happiness knew no bounds. He drove the poor fellow away from his territory and showed him an obscene sign. Alex exhaled, relief coming over him, because if they had done what they planned, he would not have been able to live. A cute white cat stood nearby and meowed that his owner was too sensitive. It is unknown how Alex learned to understand cat language, but he answered that he would hardly be able to find a girlfriend himself. Suddenly he remembered how the seventh son, while running away, talked about the Blue Moon estate. Why should he remember such a thing? For the next couple of seconds, the system gave him a new technique of the living energy spirit sword. At this point the events of the day ended. The light was on in Alex's estate, and a crescent moon shone above the top of the mountain. The next day, Alex listened to the news from a servant who told him about the death of a second-level master. The servant also talked about the Blue Moon Manor and how they leaked information. This is not the first time Alex has heard this news. Just yesterday, his seventh son shouted out the name of this family, and he also saw their mention in history books. In passing, the hero asked what kind of Blue Moon estate this was, why they were so popular, and what information they had leaked to them. Shorty briefly explained that the Blue Moon estate was a direct informant of their Yellow Tulip family. You probably don't know, the servant told Alex. The Blue Moon estate is in the dark at heart, but their influence is too great, and their shackles have penetrated throughout the continent. No powerful power is able to find the location of the Blue Moon, and no one can defeat it. For this reason, the Yellow Tulip family decided to cooperate with them. Every action the cultists take is known to the Blue Moon, and they then directly leak the information to their family. The young master understands that Chris and Chen must have a plan, so he has no need to worry. This means that as long as he is not bothered by cultists, he can sit quietly at home and receive rewards from the system. In the 7th month of isolation, the hero received a formation and instructions on how to use it. The one who can summon the formation in their region is very strong, and he can just study it now. The whole power of the formation is that the power increases and decreases depending on the level of the owner. He definitely needs to try it out, so he concentrates his power in his hands and forms a dome. Within the dome's territory, anyone below Alex's level will die or lose their powers. If the enemy is below Alex's level rank 4, then he has nothing to worry about. Alex will soon have been at home for a year, and hopes that the system will reward him accordingly. The guards at the security post were frightened because young Master Chris and Chen were attacked by 3 Dark Elders and were severely injured. The noise from the guards prevented Alex from gaining new knowledge about techniques, but he was the only one who was getting stronger every day. Still, the hero himself is worried about the news of the attack, which means that a new enemy will soon overtake him. To do this, he will set up a formation every night so that no one will disturb his sweet sleep. In the 8th month of isolation, the system awarded the Imperial restraining and sealing weapons, these magical ropes. All sorts of obscenities immediately began to pop into his head, in the form of a beautiful girl tied up with this rope. Alex is glad to receive this weapon. After all, with the formation and these ropes, even a 7th rank enemy of the 2nd level is no obstacle to him. Meanwhile, someone was gathering information at Alex's father's estate. There were 2 cultists. That lovely girl was an elder, and this was her assistant. She knows who lives in this house, and was going to implement some idea that came into her head. The guy suggested that she take her time and leave her useless son alone, since he was of no use. The girl came up with the idea of giving Alex's father a grandson, that is, giving Alex himself a son. The assistant was confused by the vileness of this girl. He can't even believe that she is an elder after all. They are all crazy. She could already imagine the face Alex's father would make when he found out that his Alex was the son of a cultist. And if the head of the Yellow Tulip, Chen, finds out about this, he will leave no living place for both of them. The guy also thinks that if he were Alex's father, he would be very angry. The partner was offended that the elder did not even listen to his proposal. The elder understands everything and is not going to do anything stupid, and they will take that brat captive as a hostage. The assistant doubts her plan, as he thinks that Alex is too useless, meaning that the yellow tulip family simply won't buy him out. The girl, however, believes that everything is completely different. She thinks that these people are too honest to leave a relative in trouble. They also know that the Blue Moon clan is leaking information about them, so this house is sowing discord for its own benefit. Alex lies in the sun while his home is being broken into. The young gentleman felt too strong and, most importantly, dark auras near his house. Everything immediately became clear. Both cultists, one of them an elder, and she also called him very handsome. He thought she was crazy, that she had gone completely crazy from dark cultivation. So that master of the dark element stood before him and said that she would give birth to the same beautiful children from him. The guy immediately realized that this fool's brain was completely rotten, that she was offering him such a thing. Without hesitation, he uses his spiritual blade to cut the cursed witch in half. This situation really irritates Alex. He doesn't understand why all the cultists come to him first, repeatedly. The Dark Elder's partner does not understand how he managed to defeat such a powerful opponent at such a young age. The situation is so bad that he has no choice but to run away without looking back. If Alex defeated this fool, he won't leave a single trace of him. Unfortunately for this character, when they entered his estate, they didn't even notice the formation. He lost hope of being saved, and even the thought that Alex's father had returned crossed his mind. With the rope that the hero received as a reward from the system, he tied up the Master of Darkness. Young Master Alex gave the man-eating flower a girl to eat, and asked him how he didn't like her. The hero killed these cultists in cold blood, as they particularly irritated him. Following the surviving cultist, he sends a special soul seal that should stop the cultist's thirst for murder. This spiritual seal fell right in the middle of his forehead and radically changed his state of mind. Previously, he felt a thirst for blood, but now peace settled in his heart. Alex briefly explained how the seal worked, and in the process removed the rope from him. Alex had the idea to leave the estate in spirit form, but he didn't know whether it would invalidate the system's rewards or not. He then asked the dejected enemy for what purpose they came here, and what the evil clan ordered them to do. The cultist placed his hand over his heart and laid out the true goals of his attack. They were going to spread poisonous gas, thereby harming the clan members and killing the servants. The hero realized that the cult was especially ruthless now, since it was difficult to produce this particular type of magical smoke. Alex gave the order to the cultists to take their smoke and distribute it within their clan, as well as to attack the strongest cultists and kill as many as possible. That same day, a meeting was held in a cave taken over by the cult, where they discussed and complained about having to move again. Only the most prudent understood that if their lair was discovered, the House of the Blue Moon would quickly report the information. One cult member was irritated by this senseless talk about how their cult couldn't cope with anything. In the end, he himself snapped at his comrades and shouted loudly about how this chatter was infuriating him. The guy who blew it up turned out to be the head of this cult, and he spoke out against their whining. Important guests from an influential family came to their cult. The leader met them, but somehow did not understand what such influential cultists were doing here. This couple is once again talking a lot and spreading rumors, which the head really doesn't like. The cult leader swung his hand, his fingers curling smoothly for maximum effectiveness. As a result of the technique's execution, the head sent flying those chatterboxes who talk too much. The judge himself, from an influential family, is irritated that the people of this cult talk too much. The leader of the group tried to obtain forgiveness from an influential gentleman. The judge wanted to know some information that the people of this sect were supposed to obtain. As long as there was nothing to tell, there was no need to worry, the head said. He was more interested in why the judge came to talk in person, and the point was that there were many losses on their family's side. Because of this cult, they lost an entire branch of followers of darkness, and received nothing in return. The Yellow Tulip family killed an elder from their clan, and in general this clan has been causing a lot of trouble lately by merging with other ancestral houses. They urgently need to kill the head of the Yellow Tulip family, this old man Chen. They came to unite. However, they do not have a single strong master of darkness to defeat him. The leader told the red-haired man that they had a master from Yellow Tulip who was cooperating with them, and the outside world did not know about it. Red-haired didn't care if their comrade couldn't handle it. He would go fight Chen himself with the magic smoke, and if he died, the smoke would do all the work for him. Still, the head told them to wait a little for the elders to return. Just at the right time, the guy who attacked Alex returned. The chief asked where his partner was, and the judge ordered him to report everything he learned. He said about his partner that she was hiding inside the lands of the Yellow Tulip. Although in truth she died, Alex's flower ate her. The leader didn't even notice that something was wrong with his subordinate. He was blatantly lying, and the boss believed him. As soon as the judge began to suspect something in his story, the blue-haired man was secretly happy, because his lie would be exposed. The influential Dark Lord noticed that their elder was a little unwell, so he did not take his information seriously. In defiance of this, he suggested that everyone gather more information and wait. "We need to help this guy. His condition is really bad." At the most inconvenient time for the cultists, his character changed, so he told them that no one would leave alive today. He had already concentrated enough doom in his hand to kill the elder. He decided to attack his cult leader, as Alex had ordered him to do in his mission. The hot-tempered guy couldn't even imagine what they would do to him for such a wrong step. The judge's partner became wary of this elder because he had attacked his comrade. Suspicions fell on the fact that he had become a traitor, and he decided to kill his comrade with the weapon that the leader had given him. The cultist, under the influence of the soul seal, attacked his former comrade, shouting how he would kill for his master. The sectarian noticed how fast the traitor was and, in defense, decided to show his fist with smoke. He was fully prepared to accept his opponent and counterattack when the opportunity arose. The enemy cultist stood before him like a shadow, and said that their resistance was worthless without the magic smoke. However, he was stopped by the cultist's words that he had been defeated by the Yellow Tulip family. It was then that he made a bad sign with his hands and said that no one in the entire continent was capable of defeating him. The traitor's name was Charles. The red-haired man declared that he had gone mad and must be killed. His teacher came out first to kill him, as he had raised him from the cradle and given him the opportunity to become strong. With all his might, he begged Charles not to blame him for taking on the burden of killing his student. Another student told the sensei to stop acting like this, and to understand that Charles was already sentenced to death. Only while they were talking, the enemy was gathering energy in his fingers to attack with a beam of dark energy. The piercing beam hit vital parts of the sensei's body. It was incredible that an ordinary elder could possess such overwhelming power. He truly believes that it is incredibly foolish to attack the enemy alone when there are so many allies. Another teacher froze with a grimace of fear on his face. "You just wouldn't believe it, that a student would kill a mentor. Our Charles has raised the whole cult up in arms. Does he really just want to kill his comrades? They think that in fact this evil will kill him." Charles touched the shoulder of the cultist who was the deceased sensei's student. He stood behind him with a deadly smile and guaranteed him a painless death, but they would die together. The cultist was left here completely alone. All the cultists fled, since the magic smoke would destroy this cave. He asked Charles not to make such mistakes and just let them talk a little. The worst thing is that he decided to leave him alive until the cave was completely torn apart. Somehow the red-haired cultist got stuck there. Charles was surprised that his old friend stayed with him at the last moment of their meeting. His thoughts were to take his colleague with him to the next world, so that they could die on the same day. No one was going to let the red-haired one down from here, because he also has smoke. The more smoke, the bigger the explosion. Charles, under the influence of the press, left his comrade no chance. It was time to die, he said. This turned out to be the last frame of his life before a powerful explosion and the destruction of a large cult. The leader of the cult group was angry to the point of exhaustion. Another of their homes was destroyed. Now they have to look for a new roof over their heads again. And it was only today that they moved into that cave. The next day, while Alex was sleeping, the system rewarded him with 10 years of training for destroying the cult. Alex got out of bed very reluctantly, although missing 10 years of practice made him a little happy. Also, knowing that his plan with Charles had worked gave him the incentive to move on. After receiving the reward, his strength increased greatly, which was immediately noticeable. True, he still does not have enough strength to defeat any Master of Darkness. Luckily, his latest steroid purchases have given him a nice boost in strength, even though he doesn't do anything. Thus, with the help of doping, he will become the strongest man on the continent. These pills had a clear side effect that affected his digestion and condition. Things were not going well at all. He began to feel very bad. At the gate, a lot of vomit came out of him, which was white in color. For him, this was the most terrible punishment during his isolation on his estate. And suddenly he was overtaken by another wave of vomit, which came out completely from him. He needs to stop practicing today and go to bed, otherwise his body won't be able to cope at all. After rising to a new level, his gaze became more alert and attentive. The movements became more graceful and quick, and the speed of the hands was comparable to lightning. At incredible speed he could catch birds in flight, and his strength grew exponentially. He achieved this speed and strength by advancing to the 3rd level. Now Old Man Chen is at the same level, which means he is already one of the best on the continent. After a while, he began to reflect on how lucky he was to be born into the Yellow Tulip family. After all, they give him food, there is a roof over his head, and servants clean up. Many years later, a representative of the Blue Moon family, Roosevelt, personally came to Chen's ancestral home. The old man began to speak in front of his daughter Anya, and was also glad to personally greet good old Roosevelt. Only he remembered how, because of him, there was an attack on the Yellow Tulip family. Chen remembered that Roosevelt had mentioned some important information in his letter, so he had better spill everything he had. Roosevelt knows that the Yellow Tulip clan masters have been waiting for valuable information about the cultists for a long time, so he brought it to them. Roosevelt decided to get down to business while Chen drank a cup of the family's strong liquor. As soon as the Blue Moon family representative mentioned the amount of 1 million magic stones, Chen choked on his own drink. The old man got angry and asked if Roosevelt had really gone crazy to name such big numbers. Roosevelt said he could tell half at first, and if he liked the information, he would pay the other half. The informant began with a story about the magic smoke, and old man Chen immediately gave him half the offered amount. So, recently a judge from an influential family arrived at a nearby cult with magic smoke. And then this guy went silent. Chen didn't understand the reason for this pause and asked if he would continue. So he started asking for 1 million at once, that is, the entire amount, and continued talking about how the judge had brought that very magic smoke from the family of the Purple Moon. With the help of this smoke, he plans to take revenge on the Yellow Tulip family. This information did not seem so valuable to Chen, but in fact, Roosevelt did not finish his story. The informant told the old man that the cult had also managed to obtain a powerful artifact of unknown power, the underground fabric of emptiness. Chen asked if Roosevelt was sure of this information, and the informant began to explain that he was a businessman and could not sell a low-quality product. Roosevelt promised to pay them 3 times the amount of compensation if the information turned out to be false. After that, Chen thanked him and said that they would finish here. They had spent too much money today. But if the head of the ancestral house finds out that Roosevelt sold this void fabric to the cultists, then their family will be very sorry. At this point their meeting ended. Chen said that he had a lot to do and needed to go. In his yard, the old man was scolding himself for having paid double the amount for being told the same information twice. Once he is free from their influence, he will destroy the Blue Moon clan, as they are cultists. That same day, after meeting with Roosevelt, Anya went to Alex to talk about the fact that cult elders had recently been spotted on their estate. He told his sister that he had begun to frequently see cultists in his area. The beautiful Anya told him that the sectarians had obtained a weapon that could conceal their movements. Now Alex needs to be even more careful and use his aura less to search for energy. Also, the local patrol should use camouflage devices, although this is pointless, since he is already strong. The sister suddenly began to ask him to return to the ancestral home. She would very nicely ask Old Man Chen to forgive him. Alex refused her again, since he liked lying on the lounger here. But in reality he didn't want to see Old Man Chen's face. It's quite strange to hear such an answer from him, because the clan is in danger. She told him that the cult was going to act and would soon attack their family. He doesn't care anyway, because he knows that Charles destroyed the local cult. What can they do to counter him? It was then that Anya told the news about a new magical smoke that could kill a cultivation master with just one touch. The information about this smoke made Alex spit out all the liquid he had been drinking while listening to Anya. He asked when they had received this information, and she replied that Roosevelt had come personally today to convey it to us. Now everything became clear to him. So the patrol guards were on guard, and he also realized that if the cult had not been destroyed, their clan would have long since been burning with a red flame. Anya told him to just go to Chen and tell him something good, so he would definitely not be left in trouble. However, the 13th brother refused her, and she decided not to leave him in trouble and stay here. In her head, it all looked like this. She will not leave her brother alone here, and no one will attack. Alex told her to be a good girl and go to her grandfather's ancestral home, and he would answer for himself. But she's worried that cultists might come and attack him, and there won't be anyone there to cover his back. In such a situation, he was more serious than ever. After all, he couldn't leave the estate because of the system. In response to his coldness, she only smiled, but he understood that she was the only one who cared about him. She had no intention of leaving this place, because she couldn't leave her weak brother in trouble. Anya clearly sees how optimistic her 13th brother is, but even so, she cannot leave him. If Roosevelt's words are true, and the cult is about to attack, she wants to be sure that her brother will be safe and will not do anything rash. He explains to her with a gloomy face that he is not going to fight the cultists, since his strength is simply not enough. He can stand up for himself, so he told her to leave, but she's not going anywhere. Anya wants to stay to make him come back at any cost, justifying this by saying that it's nice here. Then she pretends not to listen to him, which infuriates Alex so much that he puts his hand to his head. At that moment, the most influential figures of the Yellow Tulip clan gathered at a large table. They discussed how to lure the cult elders inside the clan and destroy them immediately. After discussing this plan, Chen was asked about Alex, since he lives on the edge of their property. Chen found it especially unpleasant to talk about his 13th son, but he still sent Anya to talk to him. If Alex doesn't come back, then he just needs to be looked after, and if he dies, then unfortunately, it will tarnish his father's reputation. The next day at Alex's father's estate, Anya woke up very early, which surprised the hero. She said that she hadn't noticed any cultists today, and that she needed to train a lot to repel their attack. Only now did Alex understand why Chen loved his granddaughter so much. For this work, Alex decided to give her some teaching techniques. She didn't expect to receive a manual with such a powerful technique from him. She doesn't understand why he needs such a book if Alex doesn't practice the techniques at all. He reminded Anya that he lives on his father's estate, and that he has a lot of practice with techniques here. 3 days later, things were not at all calm in the ancestral home. For the 3rd day now, the servants have been observing how strange and agitated Chen is acting, because for the 3rd day now, he has been without water and food. And even in this state he remains cheerful, as he worries about his family and subordinates. But he is irritated that his servants cannot even whisper and chatter so loudly in front of him. He is also infuriated that 3 days have passed, and there has been no news from the cult, even though he paid Roosevelt a large sum. He is completely beside himself with anger, because the cultists were supposed to attack them, according to the informant. "Pitiful cowards," the leader shouted and pointed his finger upwards. "They can't even go into one-on-one combat with him." For the 3rd day, Alex has been observing this scene. This loud old man is screaming to the sky. Already in the house of the Blue Moon cult, information appeared that the meeting place of the local cult had been destroyed. There were also traces of magical smoke at the site of destruction, meaning the sect was destroyed by a smoke explosion. Half of the Purple Moon's power was also lost, which is why the cult has not yet attacked the Yellow Tulip clan. The informer has detailed the destruction and Charles's involvement, and he understands that they now owe the Yellow Tulip family. Roosevelt did not understand the word that they owe someone. On the contrary, they can use this information to their advantage. The informer reminded him that he had promised them 3 times the amount, but then threatened to deprive him of his bonus. Because of this, problems have arisen in their home, and they need to be solved, so they have to resort to lies. Roosevelt ordered him to use the new information, get paid for it, and save the reputation of their house. Roosevelt needs to send his informer into the cult again, even though it is dangerous. Alex realizes that Blue Moon will soon take action and relay the information to Chen, who will then organize his own attack on the cult. He himself will also soon move to a new level, and Anya is close to the threshold, so the enemies will be in trouble. If he could take over the Blue Moon house, it would be much easier for him. But he doesn't have that opportunity. Afterwards, he let the servant in. He brought him food to leave here. The servant was ordered to leave the food here and go away. He did not dare refuse Alex. Before the servant left, Alex asked him what he knew about the cult attack. At this point, we were transferred to the house of the ancestors. One of the subordinates came to report important information about the cult. Chen was already impatient. He was waiting for information about the sect's attack, but no one attacked. The man had very good news with him. They found out the meeting place of the cult. It also turned out that this gathering place was completely destroyed. Not a single soul was found. Old man Chen would never have believed such nonsense, because Roosevelt himself came to him and took $1 million for information. Chen's informers said that they found traces of the judge and the magic smoke, and there was no one left there. This means that the sect has faced a strong opponent and has suffered a crushing defeat, and their clan has nothing to fear now. After so long, the old man finally smiled and laughed. It was the happiest moment of joy in his life, because without doing anything, he was able to defeat the cult and collect the debt from Roosevelt. He immediately decided to go to the Blue Moon house to look Roosevelt in the eye, and he also took the informer with him. Chen couldn't wait to see his money and the bitter look on Roosevelt's face when he gave him the money. Silence reigned in Alex's estate. He understood that a new level was soon awaiting him, and Anya was not far behind him. The girl had to wake up, and the hero wanted to tell her something important. Anya woke up in a better mood. She told him what a wonderful place his estate was for training and practice. The young master told her to return to her ancestral home. She thought he would go with her. What a fool. He tells her to leave because he won't be able to protect her during the level breakthrough. Alex also asked her not to tell Chen about the techniques she learned from him. With his aura, he sensed that someone incredibly strong was approaching the estate. Fortunately or unfortunately, Chen and his army came to the house to see Anya and Alex. The grandson was not happy to see the old man, and Chen asked why this impudent fellow was still here. Alex replied that he had disgraced the family and therefore remained in exile. The grandfather told him not to show his character and to return home with his granddaughter. Anya stood up for the 13th brother and said that she wanted to stay, and that she was about to level up, so it would be easier for her to practice cultivation here. The grandfather was about to give his place on the throne to Anya since she was very beautiful. But the girl refused, because she still had brothers. He laughed and said that if her brothers were like Alex, the family would simply be finished. Chen was as menacing as ever. He told the boy that Alex's father would be very sorry if he saw his son. The leader's words angered Alex, and he released his aura in anger, which became noticeable to the old man. He saw this cloud of power, which he had not seen before, and asked him where such energy came from. After which he laughed, replying that such a weakling could not have any strength at all. The old man pretended that it was just his imagination to see such power in his useless grandson. To be honest, he just didn't want to discuss it in front of the younger kids because they wouldn't understand. He told his granddaughter that he was leaving for the Blue Moon House and that he had some business to attend to. So while Anya is here, I'm off. And he threatened Alex with 50 lashes and then only a return to the house of his ancestors. The hero refused him since he felt fine here, and this made the old man even more angry. The next day, in the Blue Moon House, green foliage and sun rays decorate this beauty. Chen began to put pressure on Roosevelt, claiming that the information from Blue Moon had turned out to be incorrect for the first time. The head of the house was not happy with this situation, because how could their information be wrong? Old man Chen realizes that Roosevelt was wrong, so he wants to see how he will get out of it. Mr. Roosevelt, Chen addressed him respectfully, and told them that up until this point the information at their home had been reliable, but now they had honestly made a mistake. Here Roosevelt understands that the compensation is not worth a lot of money. What is more important here is the reputation they lost. Roosevelt is planning to get out of this situation with the help of other information, which could also be worth 1,000,000 stones. Roosevelt understands how much pressure Chen is putting on him, and suggests that he tell him immediately if the King of Darkness himself shows up in their lands. The old man is not going to tolerate his antics and orders him to speak out everything he has. The Vice Patriarch, the Deputy King of Darkness, and his 2 assistants have infiltrated the lands of the Yellow Tulip. At this point, Roosevelt got out of it by asking if Chen understood the value of this information. He tells him, better not keep him waiting and reveal their location, otherwise no money and loss of reputation. The smart businessman said that this is another piece of information. Information that these trespassers are in their lands would fall into his hands today. So this information is not worth 1,000,000. Roosevelt handed over a map with the location of their arrival. The villains must be in this area. Chen took the location information for himself and considered this information to be truly valuable. Now that they know where the cult is with the Vice Patriarch, they can take them by surprise. When Chen left the Blue Moon House, it became very quiet, because there was no one left to shout. Meanwhile, the sect is getting to know the Vice Patriarch. For now, he is the strongest enemy. Vice Patriarch Charles's assistant, Chase, reported on Charles and his thoughts on how he became a traitor. Carl wondered what happened to the elder who attacked Alex's house and disappeared. Nothing was known about her for sure. Neither who killed her, nor who took over Charles's mind. The Vice Patriarch was in a bad mood, as he had no idea how the Yellow Tulip knew of their location. The kid suggested that this was the work of the Blue Moon, but Carl believes that they are not omnipotent, and this is not their style. Carl told him that they would move out that night and attack the Yellow Tulip family. Carl told them that this family should be prepared for such an attack, because they considered themselves strong. Today he will go with him. For this he gave him a special legendary weapon for escape. This is the first time Chase has seen such a powerful artifact. With it, he will be able to escape from mortal danger. Carl says that if Yellow Tulip attacks him and he survives, he will use the pearl and return to the sect. Having seen this power, these brats should be very scared, because a really strong enemy has come to their territory, Carl believes. Alex lies quietly in his house under the night sky and reads a manual on a new technique, although he has no idea that guests are waiting for him today. Also lying innocently on the fence, sleeping, is a white kitten named Black. Just in the evening, as promised, Carl and his partner arrived to show this clan who was stronger. Carl is going to enter the house of his ancestors, emphasizing that they are going to enter, not break in. The partner is worried that there might be strong people in the ancestral home. But Carl, on the contrary, is going to defeat at least one clan elder. The partner is thinking in his head that Carl is not at all afraid of opponents who are equal to him in strength. All the cultists have plans to take the youngest son of the Yellow Tulip family, and Carl and his partner have their own plans. Even though Alex is useless, he is still Sam's son, and a member of the Yellow Tulip clan, and they can transfer him to the Dark Realm. Also in their plan B, they are going to give him to the King of Darkness himself for training, and also make him a minion of darkness. Their plan is so insidious that with the help of Alex, they want to destroy the Yellow Tulip clan. They imagine the faces of Sam, Alex's father, also the head of the clan, Chen, I wonder if they can kill their own blood. The partner even became a little depressed by the plan's insidiousness. All because this was too cruel a punishment for their family. Carl doesn't understand what his partner is so afraid of if they can easily escape. They are thinking about how they can subjugate all the elders and the head himself, and make them into puppets of the cult. Meanwhile, Alex had already sensed the presence of the enemy on his territory. He regrets that the minions of the Dark King do not think at all before doing something. The most important thing is that he won't even have to leave the estate to defeat them. And in this case, the Seal of the Soul will help him, with the help of which he will not kill them, but subjugate them. Carl and his partner have found their victim. They think that this useless son of the great Charles does not expect that today is his worst day. Carl shouted to his partner about the beginning of the operation to capture Alex, saying that they would catch him. Alex stood before them with unprecedented power. A ritual circle of energy adorned his feet, which testified to his level of the Kingdom of Harmony, which was head and shoulders above Carl. Carl felt this terrifying aura on himself. A lump appeared in his throat, and his confidence disappeared, as if it had fallen through the ground. The energy that hovered around this estate brought him to his knees. Carl could not even believe that there were such people in this clan. Alex's power forced him into submission, and also prevented him from using the Void Pearl to escape. The same aura emanated from our hero when Chief Chen arrived. The partner also remained silent for a long time, but suddenly shouted to his master, intending to help him. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a white, fluffy creature appeared and attacked the assistant. With one precise cat punch to the assistant's face, the cat knocks him out. Alex thought that these cultists were crazy psychos because they attacked him time and again and were defeated. Finally, he asked Charles if they were all attacking because he was the son of the great Charles. Meanwhile, Chen, near the Blue Moon House, scolds the informant for misinformation. His informant's intelligence has been wrong for the umpteenth time, which means he must return the money he has long owed him. Chen was definitely not in a good mood, as he wanted to kill Carl, but he was not at the place indicated by the informant. Finally, the Blue Moon House representative let Chen in and they started to squabble. The informant made excuses to Chen, saying that it wasn't his fault that Carl wasn't there. Chen, on the contrary, suspected that the informant had leaked information that he wanted to kill Carl. The informant once again shared for free that Carl's base is located near his ancestral home. Chen understood what the informant was hinting at. Carl, with bad intentions, would soon attack his house. The informant made excuses until Chen left, and Chief Chen also said that he would teach the informant a lesson if the information was false. That same night, a bright moon shone above Alex's estate in the middle of the sky and stars. Alex has not yet subdued Carl and his partner. They communicate and find out where their strength comes from and what level they are at. Alex thinks strategically and understands that killing Carl is not worth it, since his family will send someone stronger. Carl doesn't understand at all what Alex could be afraid of if only his cat can take down an entire army of cultists. He introduced himself to Alex as the first deputy head of the Purple Moon family. Alex said that he couldn't hurt a fly so he wouldn't kill them. Fortunately, Carl understood everything. Everyone who speaks like Alex turns out to be the most bloodthirsty monsters, just like his father Charles. Charles once said exactly the same words on a similar occasion, and then killed a dozen cultists. Meanwhile, Carl's partner woke up from a blackout and decided to sacrifice himself so that his deputy would be released. They both looked at him as if they wanted to laugh heartily. However, there was no point in wasting time. Alex created soul seals to subjugate them. Alex issued orders to Carl to control his family's forces and not fight Yellow Tulip, which contradicts the informant's information. Alex believed that the best way to counter the cultists' attack was to control them. The hero asked Carl to tell her information about the Blue Moon House. Carl told her that they knew a lot of confidential information and probably had spy weapons. Many of the Purple Moon House's operations become known to the enemy within the first 24 hours after the decision to attack is announced. And all of this is due to the Blue Moon. This information is useful to him, but their conversation is interrupted by a sudden visit from Chen, who learned of Carl's attack. Alex gave them a seal that would hide them from detection, so he could find out if Blue Moon spies could get information about Carl with this seal. Also with this seal, Alex can contact them whenever he wishes. Alex gave them the opportunity to run away and report to him any information they received. And once again, he can devote his time entirely to rest and no longer worry about being attacked. For subduing such a powerful cultist as Carl, the system rewarded him with a useful eye skill. Before I even noticed, I had raised the level of my Kingdom of Harmony. With such great power, he will show any cultist where the crayfish hibernate. When the cultists arrive at his estate, they will receive a nice surprise from him. After that fun night, Chen went back to arguing with the informant about how his information about Carl was false. The informant even seemed to know that Chen would come to him again with bad intentions. The head of the ancestral home speculates that the informant is acting specifically to harm him, since Carl is not in the vicinity of his territory. The informant doesn't understand what Chen is telling him, if all his information is reliable and true, and the old man accuses him of deception. He was given 1,000,000 star stones, but the information was false. The third time, making excuses is unlikely to help him, since Chen is quite angry with him. Yesterday an informant reported to him that Carl was in his vicinity, but in fact there was no trace of him. There is no point in him lying. The informant should return his money for giving false information. He asked Chen to give him some time to clarify everything, and then he would do his best. Then he went to his spy, and in the meantime he thought about what could have happened to Carl and where he could have gone, whether he had really given up so easily. Without further ado, he asked his spy where Carl was, and he replied that he had no idea. The informant says that very soon he will have to accept responsibility for providing him with false information. But in reality he doesn't know anything, because yesterday they were watching Carl, when suddenly he simply disappeared from the radar. He ordered the spy to gather all his men and go in search of Carl and his partner. Then he began to wonder where this damn Carl, the deputy of the Purple Moon clan, could have disappeared to and why he did it. The informant suggested that Chen not get angry, but wait, since he had already sent all his people to search for Carl. The head of the Yellow Tulip family made a serious face and scolded him for the fact that it was his fault that they couldn't kill Carl. The informant feels completely guilty and is determined to help his family for the damage caused. The clan leader, being a smart strategist, understands that it will not be easy to catch Carl, since he has the Void Pearl, with which he can easily escape. However, the informant has his own ways of limiting the Pearl of Emptiness, so Chen can only wait for news. Suddenly, the system rewarded Alex for causing significant damage to the Blue Moon House while he was at home. He guessed why the information about Carl had caused damage to the Blue Moon House. There are so many rumors about this house, but they themselves couldn't even figure out Alex. Apparently they are not so omnipotent. And most importantly, he was able to annoy them and received the technique of spiritual speech, which heals the soul itself. The technique is so cool and powerful that it is on the level of gods and can heal any spiritual wound. The second powerful technique turned out to be the voice of truth, with which he can force the victim to speak only the truth. Being at home, he becomes really stronger than usual, and living at home is very interesting. Then, for his good mood, the system rewarded him with another gift that could help him in his defense against the cult. This rainbow flower of energy in his hand is capable of protecting both his physical and spiritual state. With this flower he will be able to practice more techniques, and this is the key to stability, and stability is the key to security. 3 whole days have passed, and Chen is visiting the Blue Moon House again, complaining that there is still no information about Carl. The informant again knows nothing. His people can't find anything even after 3 days. The head of the ancestral home complains again, this time about the fact that for the 3rd day, there has been no information about the enemy. The informant is seriously angry because he is going to find this freak even if he is dead. The old man already claims that soon he will doubt his information and true powers. The informant again asked him for a little more time. His people would definitely find Carl. Chen was calmer today, so I gave him 1 more day, and then he would have to return the money. The head of the Blue Moon House asked the chief spy where Carl was now, and he replied that he was most likely dead. The spy is 80% sure of Carl's death, but the informant needs 100% true information. The spy chose it as his duty to complete the task and reliably verify the information about Carl. Meanwhile, the culprit of all the commotion is sitting on a lounger and reading tragic information about the King of Darkness. Murder. The book says that the King of Darkness castrated himself in his youth in order to practice dark techniques, but there was a master stronger than him, who took away from him the only love of his life. When the future King of Darkness went mad, he decided to sacrifice the blood of 1,000,000 people and returned the castrated organ. Rumor has it that he was the one who discovered dark magic, after which he killed his main opponent and took his girlfriend for himself. During the investigation, this girl plaintively uttered that the King of Darkness was simply a weakling, unlike her ex. After that, he completely went crazy. This is a truly tragic life story. A servant came to his estate to report that Chief Chen was waiting for him at the ancestral home. He doesn't understand why Chen wants to bring him home so much, what his goal is. He told his servant to get out of here since he was living very well here, and if he left, his progress would be in vain. The servant insisted on his own, saying that the head of the ancestral house had long since forgotten about their disagreements. One way or another, Alex drove the servant away, and he went to report the refusal of the 13th son to Chen. For refusing to return to the ancestral home, the system gave him a unique Tea of Truth realization. Here's the Tea of Truth realization. It allows you to increase your current level and kingdom. Now Alex is at the 8th level of the Kingdom of Harmony, and a little more strength will allow him to step into the Kingdom of Truth. He didn't hesitate to try this unique tea and immediately brewed it in a teapot. He brought the hot mug of Truth Realization tea to his mouth to taste it. The warmth of this tea began to penetrate every vein in his body and carried beneficial energy through itself. This tea truly helped him break through the new 8th level and rise to the 9th. At the same time, a servant came to the head to report that Alex was not going to return. Chen was unhappy, but decided that it was up to Alex to remain at his father's estate. That same day, at the Blue Moon House, an informant reported that Carl was most likely dead. The old man asked if his informant was sure of his words, and who killed him. The informant suggested that someone from his own family. Although he doubted himself, fortunately, he would immediately deal with Carl if he turned out to be alive. Later, he made his exquisite smile and offered his next services in finding information. He did not dare to deal with Carl any further. Now he wants to know where his third son, Alex's father named Charles, is. The informant said that he would make his search free for Chen as compensation for the inconvenience, and would also concentrate all his house's efforts on searching for Charles. For such customer focus, Chen folded his hands and thanked his colleague. Alex had already been sitting at home for exactly 10 months, and for this he received the imperial weapon, the Great Firebell. He had never come across such powerful weapons before, but now they started issuing such equipment, which already had the technique honed into it. And this tea of realizing the truth allowed him to break through so far that he already entered the next kingdom. Suddenly, Anya, his sister, burst into his estate with news that she had managed to break through to the 3rd level, and she instructed her brother to take hold of his head and begin to cultivate according to his father's instructions. She doesn't understand his lifestyle at all. He has a calm and measured life in which he doesn't waste his energy on cultivation. She came to him just in time. He decided to treat her to his unique tea. Our beauty drank a cup of tea of realization of truth in a very aesthetically pleasing manner. She felt some strange sensation, as if on a hot early May morning after the rain a cool breeze had passed over her face, and she had smelled the fresh scent of grass. What a wonderful feeling she felt to become so joyful and sweet. Alex explained to her that his father left him this tea. That's why it's so magical and delicious. She was sure that this tea had a special effect, and indeed it did. He was very happy for her, because if he gave her more of this wonderful tea, then little sister Anya would break through to a new level. Anya asked him why he hadn't left this place for the past 10 months, to which he replied that he was practicing here. She didn't understand anything at all here, because she had never seen him cultivate or become stronger at all. Alex told her that he trains his heart and soul, since the strength of spirit and the strength of living energy are directly dependent on each other. It dawned on the sister why her little brother seemed so weak. It was all because of his weak spirit and heart. Father Charles told him about this practice. With it, he will instantly break through to new levels. Therefore, here in the estate, it is easier for him to practice this technique and train his soul. Now everything became clear and understandable to her. She was no longer going to call him back home and order the servants to send him home. Meanwhile, at the Blue Moon family's house, they learned important information that Carl was alive. The informant asked the chief elder where Carl was now. He replied that he saw him for a moment, then he disappeared again. He ordered his ward to continue to obtain information about Carl, and that no one else knew about him except them. The informant is pleased with the fact that so far they have only told Chen and no one else. That same day, at Alex's estate, Anya urgently needed to leave, and she thanked him for the tea. Anya feels that she will soon have a breakthrough to a new level, so she is going to go to the ancestral house. With her sweet little voice, she said goodbye to him, and ran from his estate to the house of her ancestors. Alex wished her all the best, and told her to be careful on the road. He sat down to read books and thought that if Anya breaks through, then old man Chen will not marry her off to neighboring clans. His reading of books was also interrupted by a strange feeling that always appears when he must break through to a new realm. He sat down in the lotus position again and began to cultivate, letting an abundance of vital energy into his body. The cultivation was successful. He opened his eyes and was elevated to a kingdom higher than himself. The energy of life began to materialize into something resembling some kind of strange animal. This is his new technique. No one below Alex in the kingdom will be able to understand how it works. In honor of the fact that he, being a hermit, achieved the kingdom of truth, the system rewarded him with this cute and at the same time strong bird. This is a bird named Peng. Its speed can pierce all 9 heavenly realms and 9 underworlds. Even now, Peng is at the 1st level of the realm of truth and has extraordinary strength. But she is small, and what will happen when she becomes as big as an eagle? A cat and a bird in the same house will definitely not be friends. The white fluffy one immediately made it clear to the new pet who is boss here. But Pan himself didn't want to give in to some mangy cat, because his speed was enough to pierce everything in the world. Pan charged himself with a terrifying life force that burned with a bright red flame like the sun. And here's the opposite of the red flame, the blue fire, which came straight from the fluffy one's body. Their incredibly epic fight was interrupted at the beginning by Alex grabbing Pan by the wing and the fluffy one by the collar. He is already in the kingdom of truth, and in just a couple of months he has a chance to get into the kingdom of the Emperor. When the time comes for a new breakthrough, nothing on the entire continent will be able to resist it. In the meantime, he should take care of this plant, and it has been lying here for a long time, looking so ugly. It would also be good to find a beautiful maid for the estate, who will look after his yard and pets. For his good mood and care for the plant, the system rewarded him with a cannon of thousands of souls. This cannon speaks about all the souls of the whole world, and about the riches of this world. The book contains information about all souls and resource-rich places, even if they were lost. Because of the system, he has accumulated a lot of valuable and thick books. With them, time flies by, and he can also teach Anya something. For this very reason, he allocated a couple of pages to her that would be useful for her to know. With his help, she will become strong enough to bypass her brother Chris and not depend on the head, which means she will not be given in marriage to the imperial family. But we shouldn't forget about the cult, which is indignant about the fact that their strong fighter has disappeared, and most importantly, not through the fault of the yellow tulip. This old man's name is Totem. He is a big shot in this place and is very worried about his charges. One of them just doesn't understand where their strong fighter could have disappeared to if he wasn't killed by Old Man Chen's clan. This Totem turned out to be no ordinary elder, but an elder of the Purple Moon, one of the families. He doesn't like the fact that the clan under Chen's command has already killed about 10 people from his family and harmed the head. Due to Yellow Tulip's high impudence, he forms a convocation of all the elders of the Purple Moon House. Meanwhile, silence reigns in Alex's estate and a guest has arrived at his house. Anna was very happy as she was able to break through to the next level of her kingdom. Alex pretended to be pleased with her success, but his face was indifferent. Again, he gives her some book, calling it his father's legacy with recipes for pills to increase strength. This book seemed to have dawned on her, apparently. The recipes for void pills are extremely valuable. He should have thought beforehand about giving her something like this, as it could bring a lot of problems. For some unknown reason, Anya even turned to the side. Not sure. She wants to check the authenticity of this recipe. But it's true. He gets these books from who knows where, and he gives them all to her in case she gets better. Fortunately, the system is honest with him, and there is nothing to fear. It is a trusted source, just like his father, so there is nothing to fear. Anna is quite a smart girl, so she always checks such valuable things as pill prescriptions. She says that if cultists find out about these recipes, the consequences will be dire. To prevent prying eyes from seeing these books, she will study them in secret from everyone and practice in a secluded place. To help her with this, Alex gave her a jade stone with a hiding effect on the owner so that no one could track her. Alex is going to order Carl to keep an eye on Anya, so he will be calm about her condition. Certainly with such an important combat unit in hand in the form of Carl, these areas will become much calmer. Meanwhile, in one of the cult's caves, a meeting of the bigwigs of the Purple family was taking place. A bunch of influential people gathered here at the behest of the Totem to discuss the problems they had caused because of the Yellow Tulip clan. Totem wants to find a person who will volunteer to capture one person. Adolf says that their power exceeds that of the most evil clan. But still, one should not underestimate their strength. Yes, they can't do anything to the Yellow Tulip clan yet, but they have known for a long time that they drove away Charles's son. Adolf thinks that this brat Alex is nothing special, so why do they need him? Totem thinks completely differently. Alex will serve as a trap for the Yellow Tulip family. They will easily take the boy and make him their hostage. That's why they need one volunteer who will dare to break into enemy territory to take Alex alive. Adolf understands that if Charles returns and his son is their hostage, they will be in great trouble. One of the most successful elders, skilled in espionage, volunteered to play the role of a spy. His name was Julius. Totem agreed to nominate Julius for this task. His powers should be quite sufficient to catch the annoying boy Alex. Meanwhile, Alex himself is in his estate, drinking tea of understanding the truth, and thinking that there is only a little time left, and it will be a whole year since he sits at home. Lately, the cultists haven't been doing anything, and he's already begun to think that something conscious has appeared in the sectarians' heads. Only he was interrupted by a red system notification about an approaching high-level danger. Just as he remembered the cultists, they immediately came. This time, it was an elder on the 3rd level of the Void Realm. Julius clearly thinks that no one sees him. But he is very mistaken, since Alex noticed him. Alex is already starting to get annoyed with this situation when all the villains are coming towards him. The guy said that Julia was to blame for coming here, and now he was trapped. Julia came straight to the gates of Alex's house, which were not guarded by anyone. Julius didn't even think that it would be so easy to get into his victim's house. The first one to catch his eye was Alex, who immediately introduced himself as the son of the great and famous Charles. He doesn't understand that everyone comes to him, although they always promise to attack the house of their ancestors. When Julia found out that Alex was his target, she immediately attacked him, as this was his ideal opportunity. Behind his back, Julius saw the silhouette of an energy snake, summoned by Alex for protection. The auric snake's blow landed on his torso. The attack didn't do much damage, but simply knocked him off his feet. The spy thought that Alex was just bait for him, and that the 13th son had security. Alex stood in front of him and asked how they knew he was the son of the great Charles. Julius didn't answer his questions, except to wonder if Alex's guards might be there. Using his sense of life energy, Julius didn't notice anyone suspicious in the area, so he needed to quickly capture Alex. The gentleman, meanwhile, thought that he would never tell him anything, so he would simply kill him. The monstrous snake had grown in size and posed an extremely high danger to Julius. Only at the most unexpected moment did this monstrous snake simply disappear in front of him. It's just impossible to believe how it disappeared. Only the owner of the technique can control the appearance and disappearance of the spiritual beast. The spy suggested that he was the famous Charles, and that the rumors about his disappearance were simply a lie. Julius also realized that Charles had changed his appearance so that no one would disturb his great power. Alex immediately refuted all of Spy's theories, as they weren't even comparable in strength. Alex told him that it would be better for him to tell what family he was from and what position he held. For this the hero would not kill him. Julius introduced himself as the leader of one of the Purple Moon family factions. Alex didn't expect that the real leader of the group would come for him. He even began to guess why they sent such a strong representative of the darkness. Julius also began to tell that his leaders had suggested capturing him in order to make Alex a hostage of the cult. It was then that he realized everything. The last operation had caused significant damage to the Purple Moon clan, so they had come for revenge. Alex finally came to the decision that he would deal with them for coming to his estate. To ensure that Julius does not betray him, he will place a soul seal and introduce spiritual energy. After the seal was implanted, Julius accepted the belief that he would subjugate the Purple Moon clan, become stronger, and destroy the entire family. Alex came up with a simply amazing plan. He ordered Julius not to reveal himself among his own people, and he becomes stronger. And once he breaks through to the Emperor's kingdom, no one will be able to resist him. Some time passed. The sun rose a little higher, and Julius was already approaching the place where the group was located. Julius was met by his elders, who had been waiting for their leader for a long time. One old man began to complain that Julius came alone. Probably nothing worked out for him. Julius told him that no one dared to tell him what to do, and that soon he himself would become king, since the current ruler was a non-entity to him. His elders began to reproach him for being crazy to suggest such a thing to them. Only he himself did not understand what the problem was, if he had the opportunity to become stronger and break through to the next kingdom. While his proposal may give them many benefits, it may also lead to the death of the entire cult with greater likelihood. Leo tells Julius that he is not strong enough to defeat the king himself, as he is many times stronger. The spy told me not to raise my voice at him, since Leo was nothing compared to him. The lion answered him with a shout that he was just as worthless and that his strength was not worth a cent. Then the leader told them all to come forward, and that everyone who was against them would be killed, and then he would kill each of them. All the cult members were against it. They thought his proposal was complete nonsense, and that he would hardly be able to do anything even to them. The elder's answer did not please the spy, and he decided to send everyone to hell. The first to fall into Julius's hands was this impudent young man, Lev, who apparently would not have time to dodge the attack. The blade of the sword, imbued with dark energy, dealt damage to the arm and seriously wounded Leo. The partner began to worry that Julius was seriously attacking his allies. Then he said that Leo disobeyed him, so he hit him, although he warned him. The next elder came under attack, and he also couldn't withstand such a powerful attack. The old man and the other elders warned Julius that they would engage in battle if he did not stop attacking his allies. Julius simply said that he will not kill anyone who obeys him, but everyone else will go to hell. The old man began to have doubts that Julia was joking with them, and was completely serious. A lion with a severed arm asks everyone to gather and kill him, as he has gone mad. The first one Julius kills will be Leo, who behaved too brazenly towards him. With a powerful surge of energy, Julius dealt a devastating blow to Leo. The old man and his partner realized that the jokes were over, and that they had to destroy Julius. The old man called all the elders to kill this scoundrel who attacked their cult and imagined himself a king. True, they hardly expected that Julius would decide to self-destruct in order to take everyone in this cave. Everyone started to leave the cave as their comrade Julius almost detonated right in front of them. The old man made a face of horror before a large explosion was heard from Julius's equipment. A large mushroom cloud rose to a height of approximately several hundred meters, and a large area was devastated by the force of destruction. Just after what happened, Totem came to the cultists' bunker. He had no idea what had happened, why the bodies of their comrades were lying on the ground, why only ruins remained of their bunker. Totem asked the old man, who was the only one left alive, what happened here, who was to blame for this destruction. The old man, through the pain, said that the explosion created by Master Julius's final kamikaze technique was to blame. Totem didn't want to hear the name of the best spy in their region at all. How it happened, what came over him, and where everyone else was. The old man said that the others were dead. Only he survived, although his chances of living for another couple of minutes are slim. Totem realized how terrible the event had been. More than 70% of the elders had died, and with such losses they could not resist other cults. The old man told him that in a little while he would also go to his forefathers, so it would be better for him to help. The totem apologized to him and offered him some medicine, after which he would tell him everything. At the same time, Alex receives a system reward for destroying a cult, while being thousands of miles away. The system rewarded him with celestial flares, which will allow him to level up faster, since energy accumulates more slowly as rank increases. Also, in one such flash, a lot of life energy is stored, and if it is released, it will explode, and can kill the enemy of the Kingdom of Truth. If a strong enough enemy comes to him, he will simply throw this explosive at him. But after the victory of an entire cult, he doesn't even think that anyone else will come to him, which means he can relax. The soul seal conveyed to him the information that one of his subordinates had come to him. Carl, his most powerful henchman among those who at least remained alive, was approaching his house. Carl greeted his master to tell him some important news about the Purple Moon clan. Alex ordered me to tell him why I came and what such important news was about the Purple Moon. Then Carl began to tell that the Purple Moon and the Great Imperial Clan were uniting against the Yellow Tulip Clan. This union could bring a lot of losses to his family, so it could harm both Anya and Chris. If discord arises in the family, then his hermit life will have to say goodbye to him. In this case, he gave Carl the order to find a workaround so that this union would not take place. And at the same time, he must also protect Anya. Carl did not object to his order, folded his hands and said that he would do everything that his master ordered. Alex then asked Carl to discreetly pass Anya the pills and various valuables that he would give him. If he does his job well, he will receive spiritual medicine. He will also give him 2 spiritual snakes, which will temporarily make him as strong as Alex. He must keep one snake for himself, and the second for Anya. The spiritual serpent entered Carl's body and gave him a large amount of time-limited power. The second snake will act as his protector, who will save his life in an unforeseen situation. He then threw a power-up pill to Carl so that he could give it to Anya and later become stronger himself. The henchman took the pill and said that it would be delivered as soon as possible. Then the thought of Old Man Chen crept into Alex's head, and the fact that he had very little time left to break into the Kingdom of Harmony. Chen could easily take one of these pills to break through right now, but Alex doesn't want to give it to him, since the old man really doesn't like him. He is waiting for Anya to learn how to create pills on her own, and has also determined that Old Man Chen has no talent at all. This is confirmed by the fact that even his son Charles was able to achieve the Kingdom of Harmony, but the old man could not. He understands that some kind of talent is needed to level up to the Kingdom of Harmony. Suddenly, the system gave him an improved map of spiritual exercises to replace the old map. Alex was extremely happy about it, since his strength surpassed that of the elite warriors of the 5th rank of the Realm of Truth. But his spiritual vision lasts only 3 seconds, and this is very little for such high power. With this map, he will be able to reach the Emperor's Kingdom and become the strongest on the continent. True, after the establishment of the Emperor's Kingdom, he will need a new and improved map of spiritual exercises. In the house of Chris, who is Alex's older brother and is the commander of one of his family's divisions, Chris thought about the last attack of one cult and how he was saved by the disappearance pill, without which he would not have returned home alive. The Blue Moon clan is very cruel, and information from them is too valuable. They cannot rely on an informant at all. True, there is no good in refusing an informant, since the intelligence will not be enough to know all the enemy's positions. While Chris was alone, a servant entered the room with information from the messenger, which was passed on to him. Chris asked about the source of the information, But the servant answered that the sender was unknown, and that he was not from the yellow tulip family, and certainly not from the blue moon. He read this letter with particular interest, as the information there was very valuable and interesting. Chris immediately ordered the servant to call her father, who was Chen's fourth son. Immediately, the fourth uncle Herman came to his son at the same moment he was called. Herman came here and looked interested in the purpose for which Chris called him here. Chris handed him the letter and asked who could send it to them, what it looked like. Herman was interested, especially since he has a motive to believe the information on this sheet. But he still needs to be careful. Herman believed that this information was very important and concerned not only their family, so he needed to go to the ancestor's house. Meanwhile, in one of the dark caves, someone was practicing pill creation and completely concealed their presence. As it turned out, Anya was practicing creating pills and everything worked out just fine for her, and the progress was visible. Anya enjoyed training using the technique that her brother taught her. In this teapot she prepares her pills, which glow like stars in the sky in the dead of night. True, not all of her attempts were successful. 5 pills turned out to be defective, 2 were of normal quality. But from 10 pills, she managed to create 3 pills of average quality, which shimmered with the brightest blue light. Next time she will do much better. She is very confident in herself. Soon she progresses from her brother's technique to the creation of high-quality pills of the highest quality. In the meantime, she has used up all the cooking elixir and needs to find a new one. After she learns how to make pills, she needs to learn how to create spiritual power pills. As it turned out, she was being watched by Carl, who sent her a spirit snake that Alex had told him to give her. This spiritual serpent perfectly entered right through her spiritual shell and possessed her. She didn't understand what kind of luck had befallen her today. Some unknown force, similar to a boa constrictor, had entered into her. On the road, someone left her a bag of materials, although she doesn't sense anyone else's aura nearby. There are a lot of materials in the bag, and now she is wondering who gave her such a generous gift. However, there is a possibility that this gift was given to her by her grandfather. But for what purpose, if he never did it secretly? Probably one of the elders noticed how hard she was trying and decided to help as much as he could. She didn't need much convincing. With the new materials, she went back to practicing making pills. Carl told his partner to keep an eye on the girl while he stepped back. But he needed to leave in order to come up with some kind of plan for how Mr. Alex could remain safe. An hour later, Carl arrived at Alex's house, who was again doing nothing but his daily tasks. Carl came to the hero to tell him about his sister's new successes and, frankly, they are amazing. He is confident that Anya has a certain talent in creating pills, as in a short period of time she has learned to create pills of average quality. Alex noticed that Carl had become a real and loyal dog to him, although he hardly knew that Carl was planning something against him. But he gives him medicine so that he becomes a little stronger. Thus, the hero gives him guarantees that for his work, he will become stronger. By lunchtime, a servant arrived at Alex's estate with news that a large-scale battle had taken place with most of the families. He spoke of a certain informant who had revealed the Purple Moon's plan to unite the two families. As sad as it may sound, even with that information from Alex, the Yellow Tulip family could also lose. Thanks to that battle, the Purple Moon clan is on the verge of extinction. The best thing that can be taken from this event is that this clan will no longer function for some time. Suddenly the system gave him a great spy technique with which he can look anywhere, read anyone's thoughts and go where he shouldn't be. This technique is so powerful that no one will be able to hide their hidden intentions from him anymore. Simply put, the system has given him the eyes of God, which see the whole truth and know no lies. He decided to test this ability on his snow-white cat. The origin of this magical cat is amazing. He is a beast of heaven and earth, and his power is approximately equal to Alex's. Alex urgently needs to control this power, since such a cute animal simply cannot have such great power. But the truth is, he doesn't know at all where they came from in his estate, where the power equal to the kingdom of truth came from. One has only to imagine what the two of them, along with the bird pen, could do to a foreign cult or an enemy clan. But he doesn't want to think about birds and cats. So he just lies there and waits for the notification system to tell him that he's been living at home for a whole year. His solitary pastime was interrupted by his third son, Thomas, who decided to pay a visit to his unlucky brother. He was very upset that Alex was lying around and doing nothing, even though he had such a cool father. Alex immediately became despondent as he realized that his stuffy brother Thomas had returned from practice. Thomas proved to him that he had to become stronger in order to go and find his parents. Only Alex didn't want to listen to this nonsense and turned his back on him. The third brother believes that Charles and Alex's mother are great people and he should idolize them. And he should look up to his father, as he himself had previously done. The only thing that came into his stupid head was to get an answer by attacking. Alex began to guess why Thomas was trying so hard to become like his father Charles. He probably wanted to become his heir. Thomas asked if he really needed his father's inheritance. Alex told him that he really didn't think so. He just wanted Thomas not to bother him. Everyone lives as they see fit, and that's Alex's lifestyle, just sitting at home and relaxing. And what can he do if he simply doesn't want to engage in cultivation and becoming better, like his father? Thomas had nothing to say to this answer, because he actually turned out to be right and said everything factually. He had to breathe out all his anger and calm down. Then he sat down on his bed to discuss everything that was pressing and the difficulties they had experienced. Our hero believes that among all his peers, Thomas is the most talented, since he has already achieved the spiritual kingdom. True, he does not practice our family's techniques, only those he found outside the clan. Thomas immediately told him that he considered his lifestyle to be something right, although it was still too bad for him. Their dialogue looked like they were having a farewell meeting, but it was still obvious that Thomas was worried about him, so he would help him with his own efforts someday. It was already getting dark on the streets. The sun was setting behind the horizon. Another day had ended in Alex's favor. There was some bitterness in Thomas's gaze. He said that he would soon leave their family and did not know when he would return, if at all. But he promised that if he received any information about Alex's father, he would tell him everything. After all, they are brothers. There shouldn't be any quarrels in their family, especially such big ones. So he gave him a note. Thomas passed it on to improve his relationship with grandfather Chen, as the information inside the note would help improve Alex's situation. And finally, Thomas told him to start cultivating already. There was no point in remaining at the level of the first realm of death. Brother Alex seemed to see something sad in Thomas, as if he had lost someone. This recording was bound in the rare leather used to pack imperial records of techniques. It turned out to be just as he had expected. It was part of an ancient scripture that contained ancient techniques. This is a very valuable thing, since with it he can break into the realm of truth, and if he finds the whole record, then the kingdom of the emperor is not far off. The only problem as to why there is no one at the level of the emperor's realm on the continent is the great war that has stopped progress. There's no point in these pieces of paper right now, just like there are no point in even the highest quality pills. But to give them as a gift to Chen would be very good. He immediately lay down more comfortably and began to think about Carl, who had become secretive because he could make enemies, and therefore Alex needed to seize the moment when he needed to be saved. Early in the morning, far away from the ancestral home, the loud and angry cries of old man Chen could be heard. They were so loud that they could be heard in Alex's estate, which is on the border of the entire clan territory. How out of sorts do you have to be from early morning to scream so loudly? Our heavenly cat also wasn't happy that he was woken up, and as if he wasn't happy enough, they weren't letting him sleep. He really hopes that Chen Thomas won't kill him, since by the morning he had already managed to annoy him somehow. While Cat slept and eavesdropped on the roof, Chen scolded Thomas for not going through with the arranged marriage. Thomas was to be married into the imperial family in order to maintain favorable diplomatic relations between the clans. Chen explains to Thomas that he doesn't care who he truly loves and values, that love shouldn't interfere with his marriage to the emperor's daughter. Thomas's father agreed with the old man. Disrupting this wedding could adversely affect their family's reputation. Chen also says that his third son Charles had previously ruined the wedding, and now he will not allow his third grandson to do the same. Chen confirmed Thomas's words. Their reputation would be ruined if they broke off the engagement a second time. Thomas felt very ill, but he said that he had previously agreed with the imperial family on this matter. Thomas's answer lit a fire in Chen. He was ready to tear him to pieces. Thomas then says that today he says goodbye to everyone, and tomorrow he will leave the territory of the Yellow Tulip clan. Then Chen's eldest son, Kyle, responded that after the escape of Charles, his brother, there had been a tendency in their family to run away from their ancestral home. Chen was in a bad mood. The answer did not please him, and today he was going to report to the imperial family that the wedding would take place. Then the same servant from the very beginning of this story entered the room and said that a representative of the imperial family had arrived. From this family came a mother and daughter, who are going to marry Thomas. Chen clearly didn't expect to see the two of them here today. This mother was clearly serious about the wedding. Alex is concerned about what Chen will do to Thomas to force him to marry. An old man can lock his grandson in the basement and keep him there until he agrees. The guy is also concerned about whether the girl likes the guy she is coming to marry. Although, in general, our hero shouldn't care about their situation, as long as it doesn't affect him in any way. Even if Thomas is going to run away, he must know about the consequences that await him in the future. Meanwhile, representatives of the imperial family arrived at the ancestral home. The emperor's wife herself came with her daughter. The empress's name is Lana, and her daughter's name is Jean. Both were absolute beauties, who stood out sharply with their outfits in this gray place. The Empress immediately asked whether this family was planning to break off the engagement again, to which Chen replied in the negative. Thomas plucked up the courage to tell them what he would do next. He wanted to ask Jana if she liked him at all, because you can't force someone to like you anyway. This beauty immediately replied that she liked him very much, so she was ready for the engagement. Her answer amazed the guy. Chen was already happy and said that his grandson would not dare to offend Jana. In fact, he was not afraid for their relationship. He was concerned about the diplomatic relations of the four main families of the continent. Thomas still doesn't understand why she answered him like that. Because they had only seen each other a couple of times in their entire lives. It felt like she was crazy. She told Thomas straight out that she fell in love with him at first sight. He was not going to believe her, and said that he already had his own love, and they were not destined to get married. Lana decided to stop this whole circus with her loud statement. She asked them if her daughter Jana was not beautiful enough for Thomas, and did not attract his attention at all. Chen said that this was not the case at all, and that he would arrange everything so that the situation with his son Charles would not be repeated. The old man ordered the servants to lock Thomas up until he thought about the engagement proposal. Then Thomas said, pulling out a strange thing from his kimono, that he was not as cool as the third father Charles, but just like him, Thomas would fight for his love. And none of them will be able to stop him under any pressure. Chen's first son shouted at him and asked if Charles had taught him to break up engagements between families. So he took out a strange thing from his kimono, said at the end that Jana would definitely find a good husband, and said goodbye. A giant cloud of smoke filled the room and Thomas got lost in it. Old man Chen ordered that he be caught immediately before he ran away as far as the third son Charles. Suddenly the Empress's attention shifted from Thomas to the exiled Alex. True, he was not going to talk about Alex Chen, since it was his personal shame and disgrace. Jana immediately went to the estate where Alex had been living as a hermit for almost a year to see what Alex tasted like. Chen told his sons to go and keep an eye on Alex so that he wouldn't harm them with his laziness. They didn't walk long to his house, and eventually these two slender beauties came to the gate. Jana and Lana came straight to him and didn't even knock or greet the loser. The Empress immediately assumed that Alex, Charles's son, was sitting in that chair. He greeted her as always in his own manner, without any respect, full of insolence and pathos. She was surprised because this was the first time someone had addressed her as an aunt. Well, that was completely disrespectful. He answered her that he couldn't call her anything else, because she was the same age as her father, and he couldn't call her sister. Lana already thinks that their entire family wants to ruin the wedding, as if they don't know any consequences. The first son answered her that he would not be able to stop Thomas, because he had run away, and besides, this wedding would be unfair to Jean. Lana remembered that Alex's father had previously offended her, and now his son would have to take responsibility for his blood. Alex acted out of spite, and said that his father had left her for a reason. She was just a psychopath. She wanted to finish off this bastard with her very strong attack, which could even kill him. Fortunately, the first uncle assessed the situation sensibly, and understood that the weak Alex could easily be wiped into dust by Lana's attack. His strength was enough to stop Lana's attack, but he's not happy with what Alex said. If Thomas isn't going to marry her daughter, then Alex is definitely going to marry her. The action took place in the same place. Lana sought Alex's consent to marry Jana. They didn't expect to hear such words from her at all, because how could they like their loser Alex? The first uncle asked how they would play the wedding, what would happen to Jean's feelings. This crazy woman didn't even think about it. She agreed, and said that she really liked Alex. Alex's uncles were very surprised at how quickly Jana and Lana changed their minds. Only Alex was against this engagement, because deep down he understood that it would hinder his seclusion and progress. The Empress asked him how he dared refuse such an offer from the Empress herself. He really doesn't understand what Jana saw in him. Their marriage to him could lead to grief in the family, since he is a loser. After hearing this, the two beauties were speechless, as he called himself a worthless person. Lana asked him what led him to call himself a loser in public, and he answered her that he was a nobody, and their wedding could greatly affect Jana's reputation. Lana must understand that by fulfilling her maternal duty, she is ruining her daughter, since everyone around will say that Jana is only fit to marry worthless trash. And the situation with her and her father is not so dire that it should be made into a mountain out of a molehill. The Empress gritted her teeth and became angry at their family. Her anger knew no bounds. She proclaimed to the entire family that there was no one in the Yellow Tulip clan worthy of being her daughter's groom. The uncles understood that things were getting hot and they had to leave here soon. Since Mr. Alex considers himself a worthless person, it means he is not suitable for her daughter, so they leave. For such a beautiful refusal, Alex's system awarded him a new interesting reward. He was even happier with this outcome of events than with some annoying engagement. Deep down, he was thinking that while Jana seemed like a well-behaved girl, there was definitely something wrong with her. With the help of Heavenly Sight, Alex looked at Jean's origins. It turned out that she is the child of a demon and a fox, and she is only attracted to handsome men. She is also cunning and agile. Her characteristics made our hero make such a face, as she is terribly strong. He should be more careful with her, because this Jana is a real rogue and can drive him into a corner. It is also worth warning Thomas that Jean may take revenge on him for the broken engagement. The message conveyed to the bird traveled with it to its destination. Meanwhile, he decided to take a look at the system reward. This time he received a certain heavenly heart that ignited the fire of feelings. This heavenly fiery heart makes human malice a catalyst for such a powerful spiritual flame. If there is even a little bit of anger in a person, it will burn with a bright fire of rage and will hardly go out. There is no way to resist this, Alex thinks, since every person has bad thoughts. Now Thomas's case is not so influential. What is much sadder for Chen is that they did not take Jean into their family with such force. They clearly regret that they were unable to integrate Jana into their family, since with her characteristics, her strength will grow by leaps and bounds. Jana is probably involved in the fact that there is no master with the power of the Emperor's realm on the continent, and there is not enough information in the ancient scriptures. He couldn't figure out where Jean got her reincarnation from if she was a fox demon, and why Lana was so desperate to marry her off into the Yellow Tulip family. Our hero sensed a catch here that led directly to a secret conspiracy that would certainly not be an obstacle for him. Just then the bird pen returned, having most likely already conveyed the message to Thomas. In any case, they all need to be careful with Jana, and they won't take their eyes off her so that she doesn't stab them in the back with a knife. A powerful master of darkness, who was a mercenary and killer, came to a cave where a cult was located. The cult leader, Peter, ordered a certain old man to complete a task in exchange for a pill of spiritual blood, which would extend his life by 10 years and increase the chance of a breakthrough. An old mercenary with long eyebrows named Jim asked if he really had such a valuable pill. Peter told him that his cult was destroyed by the Yellow Tulip family, so he needed to somehow get revenge for everything. Jim had a question in response to this. Who would pay that much for the murder of a couple of elders? Peter said that his main goal was to kidnap Charles's son, whose name is Alex. With Alex in his hands, he will have leverage over the Yellow Tulip clan, which has been causing too many problems lately. He said that Alex could become the catalyst for Charles's terrible war with his own family, which could easily turn into a bloodbath. Old Jim just stood there, thought, and was silent, without saying anything. Suddenly he made up his mind and answered him that he would try to fulfill his task. Peter tossed him the first half of the pill of demonic blood in advance. The old mercenary will receive the second pill only after returning with the captive Alex. A powerful and rare spiritual blood pill, shimmering with a red glow, fell into Jim's hands. The old man did not delay with this task, and quickly set off for the lands of the Yellow Tulip. He understands that in terms of strength in this family, he is second only to Old Man Chen, and that is only because he is simply old. Questions of death have been tormenting him for a long time, and now he has a chance to become stronger and prolong his life. At his estate, Alex is unaware that a powerful mercenary is hunting for his head. He reflects that very soon he will be a hermit for a whole year. There are only 7 days left until the anniversary of his expulsion from his ancestral home, and yet he has progressed so much in that time. It is unknown whether Alex suspects that someone is watching him, but one thing is clear. He either doesn't show it, or doesn't know. Only now did he sense the presence of the hired minion of darkness. He doesn't understand at all why all the cultists go through him whenever they set foot on his family's territory. The old man asked if he was the exiled son of Charles that he was looking for. Alex answered honestly, but asked if that was the reason he was always being hunted. Old Jim said he wasn't part of a cult, he was just a mercenary, so he didn't know everything. He just really wants to take Alex with him very easily and quietly, without attracting unnecessary attention. The old man was no slouch. Even at his age he remained so fast and agile. However, Alex is much stronger than him, and one word is enough for him to kneel before him. This mercenary is a master on the level of Old Man Chen, and yet he was so easily brought to his knees by some brat. This turn of events took him by surprise. Jim does not understand what to do in such a situation. Alex brought him to his knees with one word and told him to sit still, not to show that he had come here to kidnap Charles's son. This power scared him terribly. He immediately realized that this was Charles's son, and his power was at the level of the Emperor's kingdom. He asked him about the purpose of his visit and, in general, why he was hired and what they offered him. Jim couldn't answer him, as he was very afraid of his aura and strength. Instead of a normal answer, The old man began to grunt with his mouth and rotten teeth. He can't even understand why not a word can come out of his mouth. Alex wonders why the cultists continue to attack him when they themselves are almost completely destroyed. Apparently, while they were cultivating, their dark energy entered the brain and completely ate it. Alex sees in him that his days are numbered, and that he himself is just trash, who, after such a long life, has only ended up in the kingdom of emptiness. He doesn't even know whether to help him break through or leave everything as it is. Otherwise, there would be no use for him. But this way he could extract some benefit from his trash body. A red diamond-shaped mark appeared on his forehead, which he had been meaning to look at. Alex gave him a break and told him to live out his last days and do something worthwhile in the meantime. And now he's already in the forest heading towards the cult leader Peter, and doesn't even know what to answer him. Alex also gave him this heavenly flash of spiritual power, and said that if he met someone equal to the power of the Kingdom of Harmony, he could simply throw it at him. Moreover, Alex has subjugated him, so he cannot resist his powerful will. There was a guard at the gate who had no intention of letting anyone in, even if it was a decrepit old man who looked like he only had 3 days left to live. The guard asked him what this old Jim was doing there and why he looked so bad. The old man with long eyebrows thought that he could not resist the will of Mr. Alex, so he would do something worthwhile. Jim told the guard directly that he was going to attack His Majesty, who lived here. The guard chuckled at him as he began to spout some utter nonsense. The guard thought that the old man was too crazy in his old age to say something like that. Jim took out his spiritual sword, with which he decided to perform the feat of his life. He wanted everyone to remember that an unknown master of dark techniques dared to attack the palace of the Dark Lord. He has nothing to regret, since he does not have long to live, and otherwise he will remain in history. When he entered the hall, Jim shouted loudly for everyone to show themselves in front of him. A large crowd of guards entered the main hall and asked who dared to attack the ruler's palace. The commander of the guard ran out first and said that they would finish him off that very minute. Old Jim realized that the Guardian's power was at the level of the Kingdom of Harmony, so he threw the heavenly cannon straight into his hands. The commander didn't even realize what was in his hands, but it was a time bomb right in front of him. A loud explosion resounded throughout the forest, in the middle of which stood the palace of the Dark Lord. At last the old man fulfilled his duty in life and remained in history as a great destroyer, like Herostratus of Greece. The guard came to the room of the ruler, whose lock was blown up by a time bomb. The man told the lord that the castle had been attacked by an old cultivator who had injured several elders of the true kingdom and killed the guards. The entire main hall was destroyed and turned into ruins. It was as if not a brick of the palace had been removed. This Lord Keith looked very ominous. His gaze was very displeased with this event. The old cultivator is a real bastard who dared to attack the palace of the great Dark Lord. He asked the guard to bring the old man's relatives. He would deal with them himself. The guard assumed that this decrepit old man probably didn't even have any relatives. Meanwhile, in the very cult that had ordered the mercenary, they were discussing the situation with the explosion of the ruler's palace. The sectarians said that this event would be remembered for a long time, which is exactly what Jim expected from his feat. The cult leader overheard a conversation between elders about a mercenary he had hired to kidnap Charles's son. Peter doesn't understand why old Jim, whom he ordered, went to the Lord's castle and blew it up. Has senile dementia really awakened, or is this all the work of the Yellow Tulip family? Peter is very worried that his scheme with the old man will be exposed, since he is the initiator and the one responsible for that explosion. He may be considered an incompetent cult leader because of this event.